No, I could use another desk if you like.
Good evening and welcome to the February 4th, 2014 meeting of the Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen and Sewer Commissioners. The board met just after 6. We opened our meeting then and immediately went into executive session so that we could discuss litigation, contracts, where public discussion of those matters would have been detrimental to the interests of the town. We finished that up right about 5 of 7 and took a brief break, and now we're back for the regular session. Could we have the roll call again, please?
Present is Selectman Whiteside, Selectman Holmes, Selectman Slavin, Selectman Tropiano, Town Administrator Derek Sullivan, Town Council Richard Bowen.
There is no Selectman Tropiano. I think you meant Selectman Titlebaum, but that's okay.
Oh,
Selectman Tropiano, by the way, though, just as a general announcement, is celebrating his 60th birthday today. So that's why he's not here. Apparently his family has dragged him away from the Selectmen's meeting tonight so they can mark this milestone in his life. So happy birthday to Selectman Tropiano from the board. Next, please.
Picking on the old guy. Announcements, Mrs. Whiteside.
I went to the library, Love Your Library party on Saturday and had my picture taken with Marilyn Donahue. It was quite a lot of fun. I have to say that I finally found a book in the library that I loathed, just could not get through it. So when I took it back today to the desk, I said, I don't know who bought this book, but there are lots of new books regularly at the library. I encourage you to read them, get your library card, and have something to do in your spare time that does not include watching TV.
Mr. Holmes.
Last week I attended an event at the Southeast Center for the Arts. This is really quite a venue there. It's relatively small, but it is kind of quaint. And Frank Noonan did a one-man show on The Wizard of Oz, and various musical selections that were one way or another connected to Judy Garland or Frank Sinatra and Jimmy Durante. I think last week I told Claire that we were talking, somehow we got to age, and I'm not sure why, but Frank kept saying, Steve, you should remember this, from 1938. I wasn't born until 59, by the way, 54 years old. But I got to tell you that the stuff they're doing there, if you're not on the email chain, maybe, Mr. Sullivan, we could do something about somehow advertising. They have a weekly schedule. They have a town band they're putting together. I don't know if I'm using the right terminology when I say band, but they have a town choir that they're putting together. They have a program for the school kids. I know I talked about that before Christmas, but there's one on a regular basis where some of the music programs aren't offered at the schools. They're doing that. Most of the admissions are free. I think it'd be a real great treat for families to go and attend some of these events. I think the next one-man band show will be around, I should know this, spending many days on Bourbon Street. What do you call that? Mardi Gras. So there'll be one coming up real soon. But if you're not on the email, we'll have to try to find a way to advertise that. I know there'll be a big story spread coming out in the Boston paper about it because the reporter called me, so I know that's coming. And, you know, she got one of the Spirit Awards for Christmas. You know, and they've done a lot. Hanging into Onset and now into Wareham. It's over right behind Mr. Chris's barbershop there.
Across from the gas
You
station.
used to take lessons there too, didn't you?
Frank was my piano teacher.
Your piano teacher, right. So anyway, I just wanted to say that if you're looking for some things to do or you want to join the band or the orchestra, I guess they call it, that's a great place to go and do that. And once again, I don't know how they're doing it with 10 people. But again, hats off to the maintenance department, Mr. Sullivan. I don't know how you guys are doing that with such short staff. I know at some point you're going to present a bill for all this snow and ice removal, but from the sand trucks being out, plows being out, people staying off the roads, it's a good thing. I'm sure you'll present us with that bill soon, or at least give us some estimate of where we're at, right? Oh, you're going to do it now?
No.
You have that number on the tip of your tongue, don't you?
We just have to remember, probably the best way to value is each one of these large storms costs approximately $90,000.
Did you say 9,000?
90,000.
You had to put a zero after that, didn't you? You ruined my announcements. Okay, but I just want to tell you that in the police department and everything, it's just, they really, I get a lot of compliments on that as I go around town.
They
Thank you.
greatly appreciate it. Thank you for knowing.
Just very quickly echo Mr. Holmes' sentiments. I was in Bourne today, and I was driving down right off of Main Street. I had to go off one of the side streets, and every side street in Bourne was a sheet of ice, parking lots, etc. For a town that has plenty of funds, they don't seem to come even close to what Wareham does, so we really should congratulate what the town does with very short staff and short funds. I believe during the Super Bowl, if I heard right, there was an ad for General Motors on pickup trucks and said today, Tuesday, is Cancer Survivor Day. So I would ask everybody out there, if you have a friend, family member, relative, whatever, give them a hug. Thank you.
Yes, I'll echo the other sentiments about the work of the Municipal Maintenance Department, EMS, the fire districts, everybody involved in keeping the roads clear, keeping the roads safe, and also extricating those who perhaps don't follow the advice to stay off at the height of the storm and have to be assisted by emergency personnel. They do an outstanding job in this town. As I've said before, if you go up to some of the communities around Boston that are a lot wealthier than we are, when you find yourself fishtailing down the street, you'll appreciate what we do here. The other thing is that last week, Selectman Slavin and I had the opportunity to meet with the engineers who are designing the Cape Flyer rail stop along Merchants Way. Due to the fact that the only actual survey map of the area that dates back to 1846 shows an odd little jog in the coastline and a tiny little inlet coming in where the track currently is now, and we don't have any subsequent maps that are engineer stamped to dispute that, they are going to have to go seek a Chapter 91 waterways permit to build in that area. So what they are doing is moving the whole thing 50 feet southward, in other words, behind the fire station, building 240 feet. They eventually want 400 feet, but they're going to do the 240 that they can do without getting the Chapter 91 license from the state. And then as they hopefully get the Chapter 91 license, they're hopeful that it'll arrive at the same time as they're doing the 240 feet of platform. They'll add the 160 feet on, because what they're looking to have is obviously a locomotive to pull the train, a couple of passenger cars, and also a bike car so that people can bring their bicycles on board, because apparently that's something that's popular. People, show up at the station in Boston or wherever with their bicycles for the day. They take the train down, they get off and ride their bikes around. So that was something I wasn't aware of, but it's something that's going to be a feature of this. So the project is still scheduled to be completed by Memorial Day. That's their target. The engineers, in fact, told us that the governor himself has taken a particular interest in this, and usually when the top guy is interested in something, it tends to get done on time. So we appreciate that. The other rail news is that, as already reported, in Wareham Week, Governor Patrick is going to receive a transportation bill that contains an amendment for $75,000 to study a location for commuter rail in Wareham. My understanding is that that amendment has passed the House at this point in time. Last week it had been filed. This week it has passed. So, of course, nothing becomes law until there's an actual budget that's signed into effect by the governor. So that's a few months down the road. But it's cleared the first hurdle with the House of Representatives. So for that, we're thankful to our Representative Susan Gifford, Chairman of the House Committee on Transportation, William Strauss, and also Speaker DeLeo for their work on that. So thank you all for putting our town forward in that regard. And that's all I have.
Go ahead, Mr. Holmes.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, storm related. There are several new contractors that are working storm duty. And I know that we have a lot of small roads here and there. And to a stranger or somebody who's not familiar with your neighborhood, they might not think that those are roads. So in the event that you see everything else being plowed around you and your street is not being done, please call Mr. Menard over at Municipal Maintenance and let them know, because, you know, some of our streets are hard to figure out they're really streets. And to somebody who's not from your area is not going to know that. So if you notice that your street's not done, just call over to Municipal Maintenance and inform them so that they can inform the contract guys to make sure that they get your street done on their list, right? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next item, please.
Citizens' participation.
Is there anybody here tonight to speak to the board? Okay, seeing none, next item.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of December 17th, 2013.
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Slavin, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
That's all I have for minutes. Authorization for bills. The bill for Law Officer Richard Bowen for professional services, 12/31/13 to 1/20/14 for $15,000.
Move it.
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Holmes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Next up, we have a request from the Wareham Little League, care of Mr. DeCanto, for Wareham for use of town roads for their annual parade, April 27th, 2014, at 1 p.m., rain date May 5th, 2014. How are you, sir?
Good evening.
Hi.
Nice to see you again today.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell us about your event?
It's just the annual Little League Parade. It happens every year. We're just trying to get it approved so we can do it again this year. It starts at Tremont Nail Factory, and the children walk from Tremont Nail to the baseball field on Charge Pond Road.
Questions from the board?
Instead of that woman, we remember the time before I was asking a woman about the traffic?
Oh, the pastor.
Pastor. It's you. My comment was a while back. When I was by the area when we had the parade, I was a little concerned because there was so much traffic with the kids there, and that road is a narrow road, and they tend to speed a lot of times. So just as a reference, even though the police have signed off and everything, you should be a little more careful making sure the kids are safe there, because it's not their fault, but it's a real tough traffic situation there, because nobody's blocking anything either side. And the kids are walking on both sides, parents, etc. Everything else is fine.
Okay.
No problem for me.
Move
I have
to,
all the sign-offs as well here.
Anything else? We have a motion, please.
Move to authorize the Wareham Little League use of town roads for their annual parade on April 27th, 2014, at 1 p.m. Rain date May 5th, 2014.
Motion made by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Holmes. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck with your event.
I think we shocked them that day, actually. Yes, it was. One of my better senior moments. Buzzards Bay Productions, 3 one-day wine and malt beverage licenses.
Good evening once again. Why don't you give us a little brief rundown on what each of these is?
This one here on the 8th is going to be what the kids call Frostbite Fest. It's a group of musicians. They're going to come in over the course of the day, starting at noon, and they're going to go until probably about 11. As far as the beer, That doesn't start until the afternoon. The one on the 21st. Well, actually, yeah, the one on the 21st, that's gonna be some DJs. And that's gonna start at 7 o'clock in the evening. The one on the 23rd is a variety of groups, musicians, bands. And that covers the three of those. I'd like to say thanks to Onset Fire for helping us out with the fire details. We've been changing doors to make them safety with the bars so that you can get out of there if something was to happen. I wasn't ready for that. That turned into a good chunk of change. Nevertheless, it had to get done, so. And we're in rehearsal for a play called Foreigner. That should be March 22nd. And we're doing auditions for another one called Pajama Game. That's supposed to be in June.
Well, you know we have a talented thespian on the board right over here on the end.
And I know all of the songs,
There you go.
because my mother
Always
used
looking
to
for
play the
new
record.
talent.
Not as long as I don't have to wear a wig.
And then in April, we're gonna have comedy back again.
Oh, I'm real good at that, too. No. May I? Are you aware of our new policy on the Board of Selectmen?
And that is, no, I'm not.
That applications for any license must be submitted to the board at least 15 business days before. So you had one in as we were doing that.
All right.
But from now on,
At least
you and everyone else
2
has to
weeks?
be 15 business days.
All right.
So if there's a holiday in there,
Yeah.
it has to be a business day.
So that actually would be 3 weeks with no holiday.
Yeah, really. So, and that the application is not deemed complete until everything is submitted,
All right.
okay?
I also talked to Chief Walsh, and I let him know what was going on. And he said he didn't have any problem with what we were doing, because he didn't have any problem last month. Everything went smooth. So I had a conversation with him, and all he said was good luck, and he was all right with it.
That had to do with the entertainment license, which they have.
Yeah.
Steve?
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, did we settle the matter over the
Yeah.
entertainment license?
Yes.
Well, also in that policy, we need to just update the office about the policy as well, because that should be in this packet, if there are related licenses. Copy, photocopy.
Should be a copy
right?
license.
Yes, that's
So-
correct. Yep,
But we only did that, what, last week?
Last week.
so
yep.
We'll start to see that, that way we
Yep.
don't have those types of questions.
I'll make a note to remind.
May I make a motion to authorize the application of Buzzards Bay Production for a one-day wine and malt beverage license for February 8th, 2014, February 21st, 2014, and February 23rd, 2014. The authorized hours are from 12 noon to 12 midnight for beer and wine.
That's for February 8th only.
Oh,
Yeah, that would be just the 8th.
okay,
The other ones are a different time.
okay.
Right.
Well, then, you know what? Okay,
21st is 7
yes,
to 12.
is 7 to 12.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with
Yep, and
23rd.
the 23rd, 7 to 12. Okay.
I'll second the amended motion.
A motion made by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Slavin. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained.
I just,
4-0-0.
this is a really confusing way of doing business.
Yep.
And I'm, got
Well,
nothing
we
to
can
do with you,
dismiss
sir.
it. We can
Not you.
dismiss it. These are 18, are these all 21 and up events?
No,
No.
there'll probably be some younger, but we have wristbands, we ID people, we do all of that.
Yeah, we went through that before with the chief.
Yep. I
So
would
there's
just
a-
ask Mr. Sullivan to try and make it so it's less confusing for people. The cover says one date, page 3 says 3 dates. The times for one of the licenses are here, for 2 of the licenses are here, and the times for the
Yeah,
third
what
are
I will
here
ask to do in the
exceedingly.
future is, yeah,
He's
they're
all
all
set.
set.
You're all done.
Yeah,
Wow, that's a switch.
Thank
There
you.
go.
thank you.
Thank you.
We're not always hard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I will ask the
Life
office that
easy.
in the event that we've got an applicant with multiple dates to prepare just a separate piece of paper for each so that they're not stapled together. That makes more sense than,
That
Yeah.
should be it's all in that new policy.
yeah.
It is.
So we'll just inform them of what we're looking for. Next item, please.
Next up, we have an application by the Friends of the Wareham Free Library for a one-day wines and malt beverage license for a fundraiser. You really didn't have to bring presents.
I'm not bribing you. I'm just showing you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Why don't you introduce yourself and your friend?
Priscilla Porter. I'm the president of the Friends of the Wareham Free Library, and this is a sock monster that my niece, Jackie Howlett, makes. Last year, this was a raffle prize for our golf. This year, you're not going to get him because he's mine. There will be another one, and it's going to be the prize for the best score for Saturday night's adult-only mini golf. And I haven't seen that one yet. I'm picking that up on Saturday.
Okay, then, any questions from the board?
Nope, switching hats briefly, the Wareham Gatemen are proud to sponsor one of the holes, as we do every year.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Congratulations on your retirement.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't know you were retiring, or I would have sent you a cake with some files in it or something. I'm sure you'll enjoy your time. You'll find plenty to keep busy. I wouldn't
Well,
worry
I've
about
had to
that.
shovel yesterday and today, so I
Plenty
guess,
of work to be done there, right?
but it's in the daylight instead of dark in the morning.
And tomorrow.
Well, let's have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I thought that was.
Go ahead.
That would have been.
No, it's okay. Under provisions, Chapter 138, Section 14, the issuance of a special license to the Friends of the Wareham Free Library, 59 Marion Road, for February 15th, the hours of 6 to 9 p.m., beer and wine, nonprofit.
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Slavin, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
Thank you. And I just want to remind everybody, the family mini golf is Sunday, the 16th of February, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Like to see everybody there. It's a lot of fun.
So can you state the dates again, because the press
yes.
has them incorrectly. They're actually
Oh,
been...
okay. The adult mini golf is Saturday, the 15th, from 6 to 9 p.m. The family mini golf is Sunday, the 16th of February, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yeah, the application and stuff that went out unfortunately said, Friday, and it said the wrong days.
It said
but it
the
had
wrong
right-
dates.
had the
Oh,
wrong
oh,
dates on
I-
it. They corrected it later.
Yes.
That's why there's confusion with it.
Well, we usually think Friday evening, not Saturday, but it is Saturday.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Selectman Slavin, could you make a note to make that announcement during the announcements next week again for both events?
Yeah.
Since that's the 11th, and maybe that'll catch a few more people for them. Thank you. Next
Okay.
item, please.
On to sewer business, funding source contract 2. I believe the DOR was pushed back a week due to,
No, they're coming back.
well, I know they're coming back, but,
Yeah,
yeah,
they'll be back in on Thursday.
Thursday.
Just to update everybody, the Department of Revenue is coming in, is taking a look at the books of the enterprise fund. I wouldn't quite call it an audit. What would you characterize it as?
No,
An
they're-
overview or?
They're doing a management review of the water pollution control facility,
Yeah.
including best practices, what we're doing well, what we could change, anything along those lines. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
I guess we're ready for Director Campina at this point.
Next item is discussion and vote to grant 6-month extension on contract 2 sewer connections. Mr. Campina?
Good evening.
Good morning, good evening. Hello, good evening, good evening.
You were just
Good evening. I guess, am I too
You're
close?
too
Can you
close.
get too close?
Your
Good evening.
Your voice volume is just too low, that's
Okay,
the problem.
I'm sorry, yeah. Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and town administrator. I guess the first thing on the agenda is the extension request. The deadline for the sewer connection for contract 2 is February 15th, which is quickly approaching. We've received several requests. I'm sure you've received some yourselves. Some have been going directly to the board. Others have been coming to me in regards to some of the issues. One of the biggest issues is a log jam of applications for the loan programs for the connections. So those won't be completed by February 15th actually. Also contractors, weather, so there are folks that have contracts and they just can't get that completed. So I've been overwhelmed with requests to postpone the February 15th date, to push it out 6 months or what have you. And then we're starting to get some hardships, and I think those will be probably dealt with by the board when they see fit. But tonight I'm asking for extension for up to 6 months, simply to go to the spring and have all these connections. Weather will be no longer an issue. I understand that the applications will be processed in the whole 9 yards, and so we can move forward. So
I'm going to interrupt just for a minute.
Sure.
I believe since my wife and I have 2 homes in that particular area that I should step aside until this is done.
okay.
Let's wait until,
For the record,
Selectman
Mr.
Slavin steps
Slavin
down.
will be leaving the room.
Never understood why they have to leave the room.
Because just standing there, you can affect something.
It is still a public meeting. Right?
Avoid the appearance of any conflict.
Ah, okay.
okay, we're all set.
Okay.
So we're into February.
Yes.
So February, March, April, May, June, July.
I
End
think
of
that would
July.
be, I think that'd be sufficient, and have plenty of time for compliance.
And if any time for what?
Compliance, in other words, people
Oh,
connect.
compliance.
Because we have a bylaw that states that you have 1 year to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bigger picture because we're talking about contract 2, but we also have some outstanding that we need to deal with also. But yes, there's a bylaw, so, just extend the date out to give them time to comply from the 1 year. And I believe it says minimum of 1 year, so I think it's the board's discretion to expand that.
How would we communicate that?
For me, it's send out letters. I mean, that's what I would do. We sent out letters about a month ago informing them, reminding them of the deadline date, so we'd just send out letters. I think that's, we have an address file, so it'd probably be the quickest and most efficient. I think I would contact the local news media to put that out in the public, and I'd also give it to the local television program, have them put that out as best we can to get the message out there. So personally by letters, and also through the media that's available to us to get that out.
I know with contract 1, where I am, there was also an extension granted, and I did receive notification by mail of the extension. So I think you're following past practice here as far as notification of the extensions, and it's a good idea to get it out. Perhaps we can get something up on the website as well, town website,
Okay, that's absolutely.
the WCTV and the letters. But between those 3, I think most people will certainly learn that they have a little extra time to do this.
Okay.
And I also think it's fundamentally fair, since this is what we've done in the past, that we extend the same extension to the people in contract 2. So,
Okay, I agree. Thank you.
any further questions on that? You have a motion, please?
Make a motion to grant a 6-month extension for contract 2 sewer connections.
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Holmes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 3-0-0.
Letter already done? Is
No,
the
I
letter
can
prepared?
get that letter done. I'll get it done tomorrow and out by the end of the week.
Thank you. Perhaps somebody could notify Selectman Slavin that we're all set with this. He's probably out in the hall. If you could just stick your head out there.
If the deadline's the 15th, right, that's only a week from
Mhm.
Saturday.
Right, they've-
2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, nobody's going to commence excavating in this weather. I can tell you that.
No, and you got to give them fair notice so they're not going crazy.
Yeah.
You get the letter out by the end of the week.
Because I think that the letter will probably, in our reality, 2 to 3 days for the locals, and if you have an out-of-town
Right.
residents, I'm
Yeah, they
sure
gotta-
they'll give them enough
they
time
gotta
to
know.
get it. Yeah.
Okay.
Relieve some of the stress up.
Good enough.
The record will show that Mr. Slavin has re-entered the meeting.
Okay then.
Next up,
Next item.
power projects for WPCF.
What do you have for us on the solar out there?
Solar is moving along well. We have a meeting coming up the 14th of February, or the 18th. I think we just learned that February 14th was Valentine's Day. When we made these meetings, we don't think of the day, but I think there may be some conflict. And we have one of the parties that's out of the country, so it should be up by then. So we're looking at the 14th or the 18th. And where we are right now is we're at the point of discussing what we're going to do. They're going to present options. We have many options. One was, again, as we said, go behind the meter and produce just what we consume, so nothing's put out to the grid. And so that's one option, and NextEra was picked because they were willing to do that. There's also the SREC2 program that's still being modified through the state, and of course they're willing to work with that, so they'll have a proposal for that. And also, they're going to talk about a smaller net metering program. So they're going to present that to us to the 14th, and you're all invited to that meeting, and I'll let you know the location. We like to have them here. When we did all the interviews, we had them here. We tape them. It's available to us, and I think it becomes available to the public. So if you want those meetings, so I think here's the best spot, so that's what I'm advocating for, and we'll continue to try to do that. So we're pretty excited about it. There's a lot of potential there. And we're also working with Cadmus, who's our consultant, and they're also consultant to the state also on these programs. So they've been very good to us. And I've talked to Cadmus today, and we're also going to address all the issues with what the town's obligations are. So they're going to take it one step further and review some of the issues that have been raised about your contract with Sage and how that impacts that. So there's some options to us, so we're looking into those options. We're going to see what we have. As an example, they may help us find government agencies to take any excess. So they're really working hard to make sure that this becomes doable and it becomes a win-win situation for everybody involved, the town and everybody involved. So we're pretty excited about that. So we're going to continually move forward. We're pretty excited about it, pretty aggressive, and enthusiastic. We're really, so we're not going to stop. We're come too far, and we're close, and it's really exciting. We're real close. So I want to thank all the help I got from the board, and especially Derek. Derek's been there for us and encouraged us and been able to get us information we need. So I want to thank him for all that he's done for us also, and Mr. Slavin for the many trips to the city, putting up with me and teaching me about bagels. I appreciate all that. So it's been great.
Questions?
Yeah, I was talking to a young lady last night who goes to Bridgewater, and we were talking about what she was studying, and she was talking about green energy projects and things like that. So I was thinking that maybe as we get a little closer, Guy, maybe we could invite and kind of make it a invite some of the students from. I know you do a lot with the kids. And maybe put something together so that kids from different community colleges around here could come and watch this. Kind of like from start to finish, so they could learn what happens and how it goes once you make a decision to move forward. And then kind of let them bird dog it and watch the project move along. I thought that would be a good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
It's
in our RFQ. We requested education. We requested two things. One was education of my staff, because someday we might want to have the option of buying it.
Right.
So if the town staff was educated, that's a head start. We asked for education programs for the local science, whether it be a vocational school, a local high school, and obviously the colleges in the area.
Right.
So not only will they be able to be involved in the entire process of construction, but also monitoring the actual production. So that's all part of the RFQ, and that'll all be provided for the students.
Yeah,
in the
I
local
thought that'd
areas.
be pretty
Absolutely.
cool to do that.
I agree. I really agree. That's our future.
Thank you.
In that vein, hopefully we'll have some Bridgewater State University interns coming on board shortly. We'll be interviewing, I think, starting on Friday. One issue which I think I sent a note back to Mr. Sullivan today that I had forwarded him a note from another firm is that we're getting different projects thrown at us as ways to save in electrical usage. And I'm getting a little nervous because every time we come up with a project to save, it means we use less, and we've already contracted to, purchase power, et cetera. So we're going to have to look carefully to make sure we don't too far overextend, that we have excess credits that we can't actually use. So going ahead and talking to the cabinets about this, I think right now is extremely critical to move forward on.
I agree.
I think we're in the plus side now.
I agree, and I don't know exactly where we are, and I think one of the things that Cadmus is going to do is look at hard numbers, and they explain, and of course, they lose me because they're
lose all of
saying
us.
something about the fact of its actual bills paid, that may be
Yeah.
the criteria. So they're going to do an audit of all of what we actually pay, what our actual obligations, so they're going to do some really hard numbers and tell us exactly where we are. So that's going to be really good news for us as we progress. And, conservation is always good, but you're right, we need to be careful because we are doing energy things. I'm looking at a grease program. We take grease into the facility. We were able to go down to New York and Long Island last Tuesday with our engineer and another guy to see the Greasilla program, and they're taking grease and they're heating it, convert it into oil to be used to run facilities. And so we have a meeting, it was scheduled for tomorrow, but the weather canceled. We're going Friday to meet with the DEP for their blessing of the green program and look for grant money. So and that'll take, and we're going to heat the whole facility. I'm looking to heat roads and the whole 9 yards because it's abundant product. At the same time, not decreasing my energy use. I know that when we talked about the solar, they said, listen, when you produce the solar, don't be too quick to reduce all your consumption. So we've been careful about reducing consumption. But again, I still think everything's worth looking at. We don't have to act upon it, but it's good to have all this knowledge and file it away for the future or whatever we may be. So I look at everything and we use what we have to. So when the Cadmus's direction, of course, the town administration in your direction will make good, wise decisions. But I think gathering information is very important for this entire process.
Thank you.
The next item was the discussion of the EDU rate schedule. I know Selectman Tropiano had been in particular extremely interested in this. Given his absence tonight, I would ask that we come back to this in a couple of weeks. The reason I say a couple of weeks is because first I'd like to have his input. I think all 5 of us need to be here for that. The second piece of it is, I think next week we're going to be giving over most of the meeting to our initial votes to place articles on the town meeting warrant, sort of the screening voting process, if you will. So I don't want to load up that agenda with other things. So
Maybe you could just go through this and what is the issue here again?
What Patrick was concerned about was we have things like certain, if you have a business that say a muffler repair, gas station repair, they base the EDUs based per service bay, but the actual usage of water going in as far as sewage, the numbers don't always jive. If you go down the list, and I think this is something maybe we should consider doing as a workshop or something on an off day, because each one of these items, if you look at the list, you're going to have to look at it, and it's not a simple thing to make a decision on. But this was done by the Board of Selectmen and Sewer Commissioners back in 1996. It was adopted. So it's going to take the Sewer Commissioners going through a whole piece.
You have one more?
Am I missing?
Yeah, I'm going to put one in Patrick's.
Oh, okay, yes, absolutely.
So my concern is that this is not something we can just go through quickly and make one change, because if we make a change to a particular type of business or one issue for one person making, we have not received a request for an abatement either, right?
no, we haven't received any abatement requests. So there's nothing to act on in terms of any specific or particular business, because we haven't been so requested yet.
My concern is this is not just making an adjustment for one business that does request it. If we go ahead and make that change, it could affect, a fairly substantial number of businesses in the same situation.
I think that Mr. Slavin's recommendation to have a workshop on an off day is a really good idea with Mr. Campino.
Well, I'd been planning to do something like, then I was going to get that during liaison reports and get the board's sense of when we wanted to do a couple of things outside of the regular meetings.
Yep.
I had planned actually to do that in concert with our consultants going forward into the next step sometime this month, we can certainly wrap the two items in. We can have the first part to be their next presentation in the further education of the town and the running of a sewer business. And also the second portion of the meeting could be given over to taking a look at this after we've heard that. So I could do it that way as well, however, whatever the board wants to do.
I guess my follow-up question would be, so what has changed in the last 8 months?
Nothing.
Nothing has changed except
the
that there was
man's-
an audit done.
The man's
And
bill changed.
Well, technically, I
And
believe.
I'm sure other bills have changed.
Well, I think what's happened is that as Mr. Campino has gone through looking at this document, which has been done by the Sewer Commission in '96, he's been tasked with going through, I guess, and looking at stuff, and he's found people who, by this schedule, have been undercharged and making the correction. Nothing has really changed, it's just that for some reason, we haven't been following the EDU schedule that's in front of us.
right, it's now being applied as written.
All right, so in other words, this guy who owns this service type repair, he obviously was being billed something, and now he's being billed every bay. So something did change. It was the way that we calculated his bill.
No, if I may interject,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
to help clarify, what happens is that it's one EDU per bay. At one time, he had 3 bays.
Right.
So there's a process, and that is to apply for an expansion permits and what have you. And when he does that, his bays increase to 8. And what's supposed to happen is that the EDU is supposed to increase along with it to 8. That never happened, or whatever the miscommunication was, I can't speak to. But
Right.
that's not an uncommon, it's throughout the community, so he's not the only one. And so as I go, and I've walked a lot of these properties and actually did site visits and explained to them, and my comment is always that if they have an issue, that they should send a letter to the sewer commissioners, who are the only ones that can change policy. And so we're trying to, and we're also in this EDU audit, we've done restaurants, and so when somebody comes with an application to change the use of restaurant, we go in and we find a total miscount. So we recount. So all this has been going on for the last 2 or 3 years. And so what we're doing is trying to correct what it's supposed to be. And in most cases, they're not. People are very understanding, they know. And so we're trying to close all those loops as far as the communication with the building department to make sure we get occupancy permits and change of uses. And so we're getting better at what we're doing. And we also just took off, we had 140 or 130 accounts on hold for water over the years, never to looked at. So we reviewed those. We actually audited. And we found out that we're able to put all but 47 back online. And we also found customers that hadn't paid a sewer bill since 2004, 2005. And that's been common practices. So overall, people are getting bills that hadn't got bills, that should have been getting bills. And so I think they're getting them in a little apprehensive. Why am I getting this bill all of a sudden? Even though they should know that they have sewer and not paying for it, but nonetheless. So all this has created some folks, especially this individual gentleman, saying, why did my rate go up? And the other confusing part that this board is addressing is gallons. Because EDU is loosely tied to gallons, but it's not a flow base. It's some, back in 1996, the board decided to, for whatever reason, one of them being that they were having a hard time with the water usage billing, so they went to an EDU, which was at the time was more appropriate. Mm-hmm. And so that in itself is created a lot of unfairness, but it's been around since 1996. So all that's in there, and you folks are addressing it.
Just so you know, in looking at this very loosely, you can see some loose parallels between this and Title V numbers.
Absolutely. Yes,
If you know the Title V regs, if you know what the requirements are for septic, depending on what your house is, what your business is, and so forth, if you look at that and then you look at this, you can sort of see what they were trying to do here, which was to mirror the Title V about as closely as they could.
And also closer to, they also took it, when you design and build a sewer, you try to design it by size, so you look at each individual facility, whether it be a school or a restaurant or a laundromat, and you try to figure out what the gallon flow is so you can design a proper system. So that was also loosely, it's okay, if this, and also keep in mind that in 1996, things were a lot different. As an example, one of our local laundromats, Delkin, has done a great job in in purchasing machines that only use 5 to 6 gallons per cycle. In the old days, in 1996, they would lose 30 or 40 gallons, up to 60 per cycle. So they've spent a lot of money to update the facility, but yet I can't give them a discount on their EDU. It's still 1.5. And so when they come to me, I said, listen, I really appreciate your conservation, your efforts. It's fantastic, but I am not a policy setter, so this is the policy. So I instructed him, then he should write a letter to you. But again, you folks are addressing it by this study and what you're moving forward. So you're going to try to address all these issues. So I'm telling people to be patient, to take part. You know, when you have your workshops, come down and put your input, because everybody together, we can make a better product. So if everybody gets together, comes in and inputs positive things, I think we can all benefit. So that's what I'm encouraging the public to do at these workshops that you folks are going to have. So I commend you for what you're doing, and I think it's going to answer a lot of these issues that these folks have.
That's a good explanation. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have anything else for Director Campina, or are we turning you loose for the night?
Appreciate it. I've got an alarm I got to go get.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
nice
you for your,
Thanks,
your
Guy.
good explanations of this.
Remind me on Friday.
Yes, I will. Thanks.
Town business, actually, any other sewer business, sorry.
No.
Mr. Whiteside? Mr. Holmes? Nope.
Nope.
Okay.
Why don't we skip right down to B? We can get back to A when we're talking about some of the other things.
Okay, monthly update with meeting with Cedar Chairman, and I believe Mr. Brady is in, Gene is on vacation.
Just so people understand what this is, in discussions with Mr. Pina and also the CETA board, I think there was a consensus that it would be helpful for Mr. Pina to come in here with a member of the board. Typically it would be the chairman, but she's unavailable. I guess the vice chairman is also unavailable, so we have Mr. Brady tonight. Good evening. And just give us a brief update on what CETA is doing, various CETA projects that may be either in the contemplation phase, the application phase, or the execution phase. I think this will prove beneficial to CETA in terms of going forward with projects around town. And I think it'll also keep the selectmen in the loop of everything that's going on, and just put everything out there more in the public arena. So with that in mind, I guess we also have an item on the agenda for revising the community development block grant. If Director Pina, if you could just sort of give us the foundation for why we're doing that.
Sure, absolutely. What I just handed you was the final budget for the application, which is due on February 14th. One of the things that we had on our radar was looking at some of the work at the Merchants Way, the stormwater remediation piece. I think when we looked at that, we realized that we needed more time to come to a better decision about how we would implement that. So the board, which had originally allocated $100,000 to look at that project, agreed that it would be good to put that into the housing program. Since the last time we were here, the Board of Selectmen suggested that we increase the housing program. So what's I think is a good thing is the housing program has been increased by $175,000 over the prior year. And the public services were also increased by about $50,000 over the prior year. So as you look at that budget, you see $250,000 for the operations, $300,000 for the housing program. There are 5 programs, public services, that have been recommended, and I'd like to thank Selectman Whiteside for her participation in the review process through our procurement. I thought it was extremely helpful to have her viewpoint on the board, so thank you so much for doing that. And then the public facilities, which is the property that CETA owns on Recovery Road, that's listed at 125, and then a planning piece for a couple of projects going forward for FY15. So we put some money in that so we can look at FY15 activities, and that totals out the entire budget.
Now, just to back up 1 second here, you met last night with CETA?
That's correct, yes.
And then, so obviously we have Mr. Brady here from CETA. Obviously this was discussed with your board as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, they were approving of this shift in allocation?
I believe the consensus is unanimous, yes. The problem is that we are under the gun for completing the application, and so there's no opportunity to get some design and/or things approved relative to stormwater remediation. At our January meeting, I think maybe one or both of you were present, where the town has been told, it's being mandated that not just Wareham, but most coastal communities need to address road runoff remediation. And it's going to continue to be a front burner issue, I'm sure. So Wareham's going to need to get creative and probably seek alternative grants to help fund some of these costs, because they aren't going to be cheap. It's a lot of engineering, it's a lot of excavation, it's a lot of approvals, permit process, et cetera. So I think that before the year's end, we'll at least be getting started, I hope.
Selectman Slavin?
Just as backup to that, Mr. Brady and Sal, we had a meeting today with Green Seal. The rain gardens, which we originally were looking at, when we were at the MMA meeting, Mr. Sullivan and I stopped in, and there was a company showing what they call permeable, the concrete. And they also have the asphalt, which shows the water flow, which is actually doing the job. I believe they showed us today from Provincetown. So they're using it on streets, et cetera. We asked questions, would this qualify for stormwater management? The answer was yes. And the big advantage there is we will not lose any parking spaces using this type of material. So the long-term benefit is they actually started talking about things like County Road, which has constant flooding areas. But therefore, as far as Merchants Way, this would be an ideal piece. I believe it's a 319 grant. Is that the
Yeah,
right number?
we put in a 319 grant last year, and we were denied in the grant, but they gave us some very good feedback and encouraged us to reapply.
And we're hoping that the 319 grant comes through, and this would be an ideal thing to do for us, because that would take care of the stormwater management for Merchants Way, going right down the whole line of it on that side by the train side.
Yeah, there's a match. You need a match for that as well.
I understand,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying because we have Chapter 90 money available, which because they're going to have to do road work anyway. So I'm hoping this works out. This came at the last minute, which is a shame, because if we had known this about 3 or 4 months ago, we could have switched around. Thank you.
To my way of thinking, and I'm certainly not the expert, I don't even know if we have any good engineering plans of what is in the ground. But
agree.
from the river perspective, Wareham has to be aggressive with. You got to look at every building downtown with its runoff, roof, et cetera. We've got to look at the drainage systems we have in place, and we need to stop water from just running directly into our rivers. And it's not just Merchants Way and Main Street. It's pretty much all over the town.
The whole time.
So it's going to be one of those processes I see going on for probably a decade or two, and we still may not get to it all.
I don't think we have a
Right, but the more we can remediate, and we need to start to prioritize those areas, like the Wareham River and the Agawam, and those that are degraded or have been degraded. They're coming back. A lot of the sewering that Wareham has done is huge, and but the water runoff is a huge component. So,
and it's mandated now.
right.
Yeah. We don't have a choice, and I'm glad that we're looking to do this via multiple funding sources.
Yeah, I like a proactive approach than
Yeah.
being mandated.
Yeah. Selectman Whiteside?
Yeah, I just want to say that being asked to do the reading for the grant applications was really an interesting education for me. It is clear that there are many groups in this town who are trying to provide for the citizens. There were excellent applications. They were not all funded, unfortunately. But I would urge people to, when this list is now public, am I correct?
Yeah, it's public since it's here, yes.
Okay. For instance, the grant application from Turning Point on the homeless, is a booklet that's put together, and it's an exceedingly interesting document. If there isn't a copy in the library, there should be. If there isn't a copy online, there should be. A lot of information was put in all of the applications. And again, I thank you very much for letting me be part of the process.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, is there anything else on the changes? The reason I wanted to vote on this is because I was aware that there had been a change in thought, and we had previously voted to authorize certain amounts, so I felt that it should come back to this board for approval. I'm certainly not going to sign things on my own, so.
Make a motion to approve the changes as submitted.
Second.
Yeah, on the question. Sal, the uptick in 300, that is exclusive for use in the homeowners loan program, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Motion made by Selectman Slavin, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Hopefully there won't be any more changes because you're under the gun here.
And Grant's almost done.
Good,
Hope to have it complete by the end of the week.
good. And we'll take your advice, and that's one of the reasons for this being a monthly feature now, is so that we don't run into the same compressed time frame next year when we're doing this. We can start talking about this a lot earlier because we'll have you at least have you before us
Sure.
with a CETA representative once a month, and we can say, how are you doing on this, or what do you think your priorities are, what is CETA interested in? We can get all that rolling so that we're not thinking about it in November, cranking it out in December and then finalizing it in January in such a compressed time frame. Now, the other thing of interest, I guess everybody has got one of these nice-looking New England boating magazines. Why don't you tell us about this project a little bit?
Sure. This is actually an exciting project. Lighthouse Media Solutions approached us. Actually, it began last spring. They did Lighthouse Media Solutions do a couple of things. They do these really nice boating magazines, which are high glossy magazines. They also do some for weddings, and they do several other types of magazines. These magazines are what they consider to be tabletop magazines. They're not magazines that you would sort of subscribe to. They come out once a year. They sit on a tabletop in your home. They're high glossy magazines. And right now they have, they go out to about 35,000 subscribers throughout New England. They also have a website which attracts annually 300,000 unique visitors to their website. And they do a monthly, or I believe it's a monthly feature on Nessun, New England boating show that they do. And how we first came across it was through New Bedford. Last year, New Bedford had a half-hour show featuring the New Bedford Harbor. So they approached me about it and asked me if we would be interested in funding it. And so, being the entrepreneur that I am, I said to them, if you can get some private sector involvement, I'll consider going to my board and asking them for some of the money. So the gentleman, Steve Wyman, and I said, we sort of agreed if he could get half of it through private sector donations, I would approach the board with the other half. He has since done that. He's been successful in procuring $6,000. And I can't tell you who all of the folks that actually signed on. I don't know who actually signed, but I know he approached people like Zeco Marine, G&S Marine, Atlantic Boats, Onset Bay Marina, Highline Cruises, Mark Anthony. So he approached folks because once they do the video, obviously the folks that put dollars in would have an opportunity to have a small feature inside the video, so we can highlight what those activities are. So we met with the board of the CETA board, and the CETA board supports putting $6,000 from EDIC funds, which is our economic development funds, and with the idea that this video. And by the way, there's an article that will be out in the next edition of this, which is due at the end of February, and it is all on Onset, and I've seen the preliminary pieces of it. It's beautiful. And so they're going to give us a number of things. One is they will give us copies of that article as a pullout that we could hand out in hard copy and put online. The video that they do, we will have access to all the A rolls and the B rolls, as well as the final video. So again, we can put that online, so any tourists or folks who are interested in coming to Wareham could go and click on it and come down and see the area through the video. They've also agreed that if we were to go forward with this project, that they would help us to promote the activities of the summer celebration by posting those onto their website. And they would, again, give us, and what I asked them for is an e-version, if you will, of the article so that we could email it to folks with a link to the video and send that out to anybody that would be interested or to folks that we might want to attract to Wareham. So I think as an economic development kind of marketing tool, if you will, to help bring tourists and generate revenue for Onset, I think it's a fantastic opportunity. And so the board wanted me to come here and chat with the Board of Selectmen to see if we could get some support on your end for the activity.
I sat in on the meeting on that, and we listened to the questions and answers. The article is virtually done as far as the magazine is coming out the 22nd or 26th of February. The cost to EDIC is $6,000, but it could be less because they've already sold ads that basically have cut the total 12 down to 6. It might be less than that the way they're going with it because I think they'll pick up some more people on it. But what's interesting is that we'll have input when they do the video as well. They'll be conferring with the town. But the article as written already has information about the celebration 2014 as well as the canal celebration to draw people in ahead of time. And that's going to be basically debuted at the big Boston Boat Show as well. So we'll get a lot of, I think, worthwhile
And they
advertisement
agreed,
draw.
yeah, and they agreed to do that article independent of our decision to
Yeah,
go
it's already
forward.
done.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good investment of economic development money. It should bring business to Wareham.
And just to follow up on,
Also, Bob, it should also bring business to Main Street because Echo Marine, there'll be articles on that as
Well,
well.
it's about marketing. I mean, it's
Yeah.
our most valuable resource,
It
the
is.
waterfront, whether
Always
it's
has been.
boating or swimming or whatever it is.
It should be
Anything we can do
positive.
to help promote I think, is a good thing.
They've
And I-
already done, by the way, they've already done 12 or 13 of these, and I know Mattapoisett's been completed, so if you go on to the, anybody who's watching today and wants to see what their work looks like, you go on to Lighthouse Media Solutions website, and you can click on the prior videos. They're all up on their website, and you can look through and see the one on New Bedford or the Mattapoisett. And
I believe these people were originally offshore boating or something like that. They've got a long-term experience. I believe they've got 3 or 4 other books they actually do as well.
I don't know if you get the opportunity to read through this. Some of the stories are outstanding. The photos are of top quality, and they pretty much cover all of our region. I mean, a lot of this has Bourne, Hyannis, Falmouth. It's all good. So, we're going to help put us on the map with this sort of exposure.
one other thing, too, is that, and I don't know if, I didn't know this till I read this, but these videos are played on Nessun. Nessun has over 4 million viewers. So it reaches out to a huge area and through New England has 4 million viewers. So this has the potential to be seen by lots and lots of people.
They have a program, I think it's Monday evenings, just for that video clip that they will record.
I also know that you were invited
I got one.
to bring this to the Beach and Tourism Advisory Committee so that they would be up to date. I don't think they had a quorum that day. I wasn't there, and I
Right.
think one other member was
Right.
missing. But I think you were able to advise probably the 2 people on there who needed to hear it most. So,
Yep.
thank you for bringing them
Oh,
into the loop as well.
My pleasure. They were very excited about it. I can tell you they were very supportive. Bruce Hutchins, who runs the Information Center on 195, which CETA oversees that operation, you got to love Bruce because one of the things that we'll also get is we're going to get 500 magazines given to us. And so the first question out of Bruce's mouth was, can I sell them? And yes, you can, Bruce.
So
You
is he
can
going to be peeking out the window to see who pops out of the truck that's towing the 50-foot yacht down the road? Is that what's going to happen here?
So these will be on sale at the Information Center when they come out.
Do we need to vote or just
No, this is within their parameters to expend the funds. I think just get a consensus from the members of the board is all he's looking for here, and just to support it generally. I didn't notice it as a vote, so I don't see that it needs a vote. It's within their discretionary ability to spend the funds, but they're just bringing it to our attention, and I guess they just like us to say good things about it. So
Yes.
with that in mind,
Yes.
I hear yes, yes. Any more yeses?
I think it's great, but I don't like motorboats, otherwise known as stink pots.
Well, we'll see if we can get into a sailboat publication next year just for you.
Just remember, sailboats are blowboats.
Yeah, but it makes a lot of noise and it uses a lot of gas.
I was raised in sailboats too, but that's
We can go on
my
for
cross to bear.
We can go on for hours.
Well, this is for all kinds of boating, by the way.
Yeah, it's
I
not
mean,
just motorboats.
Yeah, motorboats, sailboats, kayaks,
Whatever,
featured, all of
right.
that. Actually, kayaking will be featured in the article.
Yeah.
That's true. It does not say New England stink pots on the cover, so I suppose
No,
There is only one sailboat in here. I've
the way-
just flipped
it's the way
through
God
it.
intended it.
okay. Well, we'll try to do better
Watch
next
for the
time.
February edition.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board, or
Nice job, guys.
is there anything you folks would like to say? Or we covered it pretty much?
Nope, sorry I didn't dress up. I came right from the kennel, and
That's all right.
is what it is.
We don't stand on ceremony here.
Good.
I just say I appreciate the opportunity to get the support of the board, and again, having Selectman Whiteside on the review committee was essential. Having both Selectman Slavin and you attend our meetings is always a big help to us, because that gives us input and direction that I think that allows us to move forward.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Good night, gentlemen. Thanks again.
Okay, item left from last week, we were going to continue discussion, was with the town moderator as well as the charter bylaw change.
You skipped A.
Oh, you want to do the town administrator guidance again?
Yes.
Well, why don't we get Madam Moderator?
Madam
Are you here for the duration? Okay.
All right. As we do on the beginning of each month, only now, guidance for the town administrator, Mrs. Whiteside.
Yes. There are lots of people who are making suggestions about how to live within our budget, live within our means, that kind of thing. I would strongly urge Mr. Sullivan to continue his discussions with the school department, which is part of the town of Wareham, and try and find ways of consolidation of services and of personnel in order to reduce the enormous, ginormous, unbelievable deficit that we have looking at us with the proposed budgets. I know that you have been working very hard, but it is true that we should be consolidating our own house before we go looking to consolidate other houses. And I congratulate you on what you have managed to accomplish so far, sir.
Mr. Holmes?
Yeah, I got lost in that part about our house and their house.
It's one house.
There's the town of Wareham. That's what.
What I'm saying is that Mr. Sullivan has control over the town of Wareham. He does not have control over the Wareham or Onset Fire Departments. There's no ability for him to manage those funds.
And to a certain extent, he doesn't have much control over the school department.
He can work with them in the
But
new...
he doesn't have.
He can...
control.
No, he doesn't have control.
Right.
The town meeting does.
Right.
But he can certainly bring forward ideas that consolidate positions and cut back where we can. And there are very few places that we can.
Well, to those who are obviously just ready to settle on some 2.5 override gig and say we'll deal with the rest of it later, I still maintain that that's not going to happen. In that, in order for you to present a Proposition 2.5 override to the voters in Wareham, that you need to make these consolidations happen. You know, we went through the exercise twice with the school department over at town CFO. I know Derek supported it. Many of the members of this board supported it. It was just brushed aside. We had an issue over a school building that's not being used for a school. That the town was willing to, through Cedar, Mr. Pina, I don't know if he's still here, but he just left, had a wonderful business plan for that building. We weren't asking them to give us the money back that they spend on that building, you know, turned down. And then this board went ahead and supported, in my opinion, the misuse of funds and the use of that building when we had an opportunity to do away with it. You know, we keep talking about this regionalization. You know, mentioned it last week or 2 weeks ago that, you know, if you swing a broom, or you swing a shovel, or you swing a hammer, or you swing anything, and you're getting a check from the town of Wareham, then we should be able to dictate where you're doing that swinging. And nothing has been done. Zero. Now, 4 years in a row. So maybe I'm not kumbayaing, but if you really want to get this 2.5 thing to happen, you have to do these things, because people are not going to vote for that and say, well, yeah, give us the money now, we'll work on those combination of things later. And I'm talking about the town of Wareham, the town government and school departments, excluding the districts. And there are areas that Mr. Slavin has been meeting with the districts over the last couple of months to try to make that happen. But in the section of this that we can have some effect, we've had zero effect. And I understand there's cuts made, and I understand that, and that's not going to get you to where you want to get. And I understand that even after doing these consolidation type things and bringing services together, it's not going to get you there. And you may need something to supplement that. But the voters are telling you up front that until you do that, they're not going to support this money. And 4 years trying, I haven't seen one change. So that's a problem. So, and every time we bring it up, you know, it's too late to do that, it's too late to do that, it's too late to do that. I thought the CFO thing was probably number one on that list. Should have been done. That was the right thing to do. And now, I still support that. I think Mr. Sullivan still does. And a lot of people do support that. So you have somebody who has knowledge of all the numbers, including these circular accounts or whatever they call them, and town budget, school budget, what's coming from the state. Somebody actually who knows what the total revenue dollar is for the town and the schools combined, because I don't think we've ever seen that on a piece of paper yet. It's complicated when you get to some of these accounts. So my recommendation is to continue carrying that torch, and hopefully now we get people to sit down and talk about that and see where we can. We have a maintenance department with 13 guys. The school has a maintenance department. We're out paying plow drivers. They're out paying plow drivers. It doesn't get you to $2.7 million, but you have to make an effort. Otherwise, people are going to say, well, we'll give you $2.5 million. You're just going to go hire more plow drivers in the schools and more guys in maintenance. And we've done nothing, right? So we have to show some effort there, and it's still not being done. So I'd recommend anything that we can do. I'd be happy to sit on anything to try to make that happen, to at least present an argument back to the taxpayers that we are trying to do something, because in those areas, zero. So I think we're still failing there. So that would be my recommendation. And the weather's going to start getting warmer at some point. So I'd like to see some more of them kiosks coming my way. And I guess as a follow-up to the kiosk comment, are we at a point where we're ready to have a meeting scheduled with that parking group? I don't want to wait till May.
No, it's actually, it's interesting that you said that. This morning we had I had a meeting with, the police, CETA, and municipal maintenance, and the harbor master as well. We sat down and we started putting together some of the ideas, and we want to bring them forward, have a public meeting, hear some of the input. They're taking some of the ideas from the CETA plan. There's also some of the ideas of creating the residential parking areas as well, but we're trying to figure how you manage that, and that's why we'd like to hear from the general public as well. I'm sure I will have probably about 3 or 4 emails saying, $300, are you crazy? That is something that the consultants put out there as just a general number, so please don't think that we're just throwing numbers out there. We don't have a figure for it right now. So.
Well, and it'd be nice to get it'd be nice to get our next steps in place, before the season, so that we're at least, we take the revenue number we got last year, and I think that, with some work over the next, 3 or 4 months, we could at least double that number, I would think. Right.
I would say, given if we didn't add anything to it, I would see us having a 40% increase in there if we did nothing else. So easily doubling it is an option.
Outstanding. Thank you very much.
Sure.
The discussion is really interesting because Mrs. Whiteside and I have had a couple conversations, and she's working on a document to explain a lot of the terms, vocabulary of what we deal with every day. I, on the other hand, have been sitting there feeling that for the last couple of years, we talk about things I've been pushing for, asking for budget numbers, asking for sharing services, and I feel like I failed because I just haven't got them. I haven't produced anything at the end of the day. We are the elected officials. It's our responsibility to get this done one way or the other. And I don't think we've been, at least in my opinion, I haven't been aggressive enough about it, and I apologize for that. I've actually written a simple 4-paragraph explanation of what's been going on and where I feel we've been missing and stuff. And I'll read the last paragraph, which is out of context, but just to give you an idea. In order to vote for an operational override, we first need to see what will and what will not be added to the balanced budget by the override. We also need a detailed list of changes to be made by all departments to decrease costs and increase efficiency. And remember, I'm using the word we. It's all of us. When you look in the mirror, that's who we is. We need to provide a plan for our benefits and retirement packages that is both affordable to the town and sustainable. Most importantly, we need to be fiscally responsible in the spending of the taxpayers' funds. Only then would I consider an override. I list a bunch of different possibilities. Mr. Sullivan's been looking at things. I think we put things off because we're just not sure we can do it, but he's been talking for 6 months at least about a 4-day week. It has savings benefits, it has staffing issue benefits, etc. We haven't done it. We have to make hard decisions on the library, council on aging, road and beach maintenance, on the school side. I'm going to throw some things out. Nobody's going to be happy, but I talked to several people at the MMA, and we talked about the costs and stuff, and they have a bunch of the, when I say a bunch, there was 3 different towns that have school athletic programs where basically people pay for the athletic programs. There's no free programs anymore. And also, I look at the decrease in the number of students sitting in our school system, for different reasons, but I'm not concerned about that. But if we have facilities that are on demand as far as capacity, maybe we need to look at the high school, look at the middle school, see if there's enough room to move a lot of the population over there. Maybe end up with like the minor school, everything being moved out, and the minor school being closed. We need to think about things that are realistic for what we actually have for revenue. We can't sit there and go ahead and keep just saying, well, something will happen. Nothing's happening. People talk about receivership that's out there. We're never going to get to a receivership where we can't pay our bills. But we will get to a point where receivership is possible in 3 or 4 years, maybe, where we don't operate a municipality providing the services that are required. That's another way of doing it. It's not an answer, really, because that means you're going to sit 3 or 4 more years, every year coming back here and cutting the budget till there's nothing left. End result of all this is for anyone who owns a home in the town of Wareham, we've done a disservice because your housing values keep dropping because we're not running the town properly. And I'll go on with more, but I think I'll stop there for now. But I'm disappointed that we haven't been taking the steps that we have to take. If we don't take the step because we're afraid of not getting reelected, we've really done a disservice. And I'd rather not be reelected and do what has to be done than to continue the way it's going. So I would ask Mr. Sullivan. We've talked about municipal maintenance taking over all the maintenance for all the vehicles and everything, the school buses, et cetera. It's non-net spending. I don't know why we're doing it the way we're doing it. The facility they work out of is insufficient. We told them that 5, 6 years ago. And I think it's time we just say enough is enough and let's get going. Thank you.
Well, there's not a lot to add to some very frank comments from the other members here, except to say that there's a lot of wisdom in them. There's a lot of forethought. There's not a lot of looking in the rearview mirror, which is nice because when you look in the rearview mirror, you tend to blame other people for what's happened, and I don't think that's what anybody sitting here is interested in doing. I agree that to seek an operational override without showing the taxpayers that you've done everything possible to make what you have as efficient as possible first makes it extremely difficult to convince people to give you more money. And so I agree with the general sentiment that in order to ask for more, you need to be as efficient as you possibly can with what you already have. I agree that we haven't done a great job of that, and that we need to engage more on those topics. We need to say the unpopular things, and that's pretty much the way it goes. I'm interested to hear what comes out of the Finance Committee's meeting tomorrow night, because I know they're going to be discussing some of these very same things. And so I'm very much anticipating what they have to say. You know, I've had conversations with Chairman McDonald. He's looking at the question. I don't know if it's so much as an operational override, whether he views it more as a debt exclusion thing that would have a limit to the time frame, as opposed to an operational override, which becomes a permanent tax. I know that he's looking at this not only in the context of just preserving things or adding personnel to different departments. He's looking at it also through the lens of the capital needs of the town. He also has been frank in saying that in order to ask for more, you're going to have to prune some things out. So I think, you know, there's some synergy there between this board and him, at least as far as that goes. I don't want to say any more because obviously they need to meet, discuss, and talk about what their plans are. But I think everybody's kind of pulling in the same direction here. Maybe they're just using some different oars.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, you just reminded me of something. There was one other item on that list was, and I think Mr. Menard brought it up last week, and I don't know why I missed it, but, you know, we have an opportunity again. In this, Mr. Sullivan controls at least half, if there's, I think there might be 5, where he controls at least 2/5 of them, is we're looking for another not another upgrade, but an upgrade at the municipal maintenance gas pumps, right? And I know last year we recommended that if Mr. Gifford at the time was going to sink 82,000, or I forget the number now off the top of my head, but that involved closing the police station, gas station, and talking to the Wareham fire gas station. I think there's one at the school department too, is there? Or do they use the other one? I forget if that's a 5th one or not.
They use
And the
ours.
only one that we wouldn't be able to combine, not because I live there, but is the one in Onset, because in case of emergency, Onset is an island, right? So we could be shut off. We could be cut off and not able to get to gas for the emergency folks if we needed it. But there's an area where the school's paying money, the police are paying money, maintenance is paying money, the two districts are paying money to run gas stations. And if we took the maintenance lot there, we could have all these nice safety features. Everybody could chip in for it. And that would be a big savings to the town. We'd have one drop-off for the product. We're not buying 5 different loads of gasoline. And I think that's an easy one. Doesn't involve personnel. It doesn't involve benefits. It doesn't involve it. It just involves, 4 or 5 groups coming together and saying, yeah, that's where we're going. And we could empty these other places, close them down, except for, and maybe even in Onset, I mean, we could talk to the chief over there, but, I mean, I know they have to have something because they could get cut off for an extended period of time. And I need a place to get gas if I need to drive around. That's a joke. But now that whole gas project, I think,
Well, actually, you'd be
before
where
we
you
allow
are, you'd
any
be
more
cut
money to
off.
be spent, that we put that into place. Right?
You'd actually be cut off where you are. You wouldn't be able to get to the fire station.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to get over the bridges.
No, but you know what they do? They put a little tanker. If you're looking at the 10th fairway at Bay Point. No, you're laughing. This is serious. And when you look straight down, across the street, there's that big shed there, that big metal space building. And that gentleman actually let the Onset Fire District, they use that as a fire station. And they have a tanker of gas there, I believe.
Right, so it's like a fuel lighter, I guess is the term, from World
Yeah,
War II or something.
You know the space building, it's right across from La Chance's there, or the old Legas's. What is it? Yeah.
Yes.
You know where it is? That turns into a fire station. Did you know that?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Yes. So.
Interesting.
No, in a tanker,
Here's a tank truck.
which is outside the building.
Here's a tank truck.
You know the gas tanker?
You mean a tanker truck?
Right.
Yes.
Something like that. So, I just wanted to throw that in. But there's an area where we could act immediately, especially if we're going to expend more money on the maintenance shop and build one world-class fire station, gas station, for all of our vehicles.
Should have been done a while
So
ago.
maybe we can revive that recommendation again.
Anything else? Mr. Sullivan? Maybe we can get on with item D.
Okay, back to more fun. The moderator can come up now again. This has to do with a charter and bylaw change. This was originally initiated back some time ago, around 2010. It kind of lay dormant for a few years. It was brought back up again by the Finance Committee just recently, looking for more time. Their normal time frame, as discussed, is 35 days, and they were actually asking for 60 days in order to take care of the business they need for the process, so things were worked off that time as well. We also, Mr. Holmes talked about, I think it was last week, about possibly changing to a Saturday. Also, we talked about the possibility of changing the election, reversing it after town meeting. At the time, I felt that we're probably taking off too big a bite right now, but again, everything is open because it's open for discussion, so go ahead.
Oh, you want me to lead off?
Well, we want your input.
Well, I did a little homework. This actually is not something new that has come before the town. If you go back, and I think Mrs. Whiteside probably was on the board back then, or one of the boards that she served on back in the early 90s, there was actually a committee put together to study this. There actually were 2 committees put together. There was the Legislative Committee on Town Meeting and the Election Review Committee. And then there was an actual committee that was appointed by a town meeting warrant to study town meeting and how it can be improved. And a lot of the issues that you have raised were things that were studied by this committee. So it might be interesting to go back and try to pull that and find out why they decided not to do it. why they decided not to put off their meeting until May. Obviously, they've done some homework on it. It's something that has come before the town before. And then that town meeting committee still is in existence. It's never been terminated by town meetings, so it might be worthwhile to have that committee reactivated and do a little more investigating before jumping into something. But I did reach out to my fellow moderators and tried to get a sense of what other towns and what their timelines are, and looking at towns that have town meetings in April and looking at towns that have town meetings in May. And their timelines fall in the same time period that we have, both with when the warrant opens, when the warrant closes, the timeline for the Finance Committee to get the warrant and review it. I don't see that there's any significant differences, other than maybe one that starts way back in October for a May town meeting. In terms of election time, I only found 2 towns who hold their elections after town meeting out of all the towns that I looked at. I think if I remember going back to that study, a couple of the things that may have been a catalyst in not moving forward with it was if you have a budget in which there's some issues maybe with the school budget that would involve layoffs, the teachers, I believe, have to be notified by April 15th. And if you didn't have your meeting until May, you get into that predicament as to the teachers not getting their pink slips in time so that they can be laid off at the end of June. So I think that was an issue back then, if I remember correctly. The other thing I think that came up is doing something late in May. If you had contracts, say, for example, municipal maintenance or public works that wanted to go out to bid because they need to do some things that generally have to happen in August, by the time you have a late town meeting in May, by the time you get your RFPs out and then get your contracts awarded, you don't have time during the summer to do that work. So I think those were 2 issues I remember that came up that generated a bit of discussion. The other thing, in looking at the calendar that you put together, and I think you had tentatively figured to have town meeting, if you looked at this year's calendar, on May 19th. Well, our annual town meeting, thank you very much, usually goes 4 nights, at least 3 or 4 nights, and we always book 6 nights just in case. That last week in May is academic night, an academic week at the school, and you get into graduation, academic, prom, the promenade that they have with the prom, and the school's not available. And I think when I first came on board, we tried to put a meeting off to the end of May because of the same issues you're facing now with the budget, and we found that the school was not available those last 2 weeks in May. So it would mean trying to find another source to have a town meeting, and if you're talking town hall, there's a lot of ramifications that would need to happen before you could go back and have town meeting there. There's no air conditioning, the sound system is poor, you'd need all new seating, you'd need curtains up on the windows because at that period in time, it's light out at night. So just off the top of my head, those are some of the things that I can remember that came up, that were discussed. I know the concern, and one of the arguments is that you don't have the numbers from the budget. But I think if you go back to when our town put together the town charter, it wasn't any different back then. And I think the reason that they put in that we would have a fall town meeting was specifically so that you could go back in and adjust your budget after you did have more definitive numbers. I mean, that was purposely put in there for that reason, that you know you're going to have to make some adjustments, and that's what you do, is do it in the fall if you have to make any transfers. So those are some of the things that, off the top of my head, just quickly, that I think, would be some discussion by this board before you move forward. And like I said, it's not something that hasn't been just talked about or investigated, and it might be interesting to go back and see if you can find that report and find out what they came up with. It wasn't that long ago.
I'm good at looking for things.
Okay. I can just make a couple quick comments. The idea of this also is we've put in motion the pieces. Actually, we're behind as always. We were going to take care of the auditorium, but of course the slate roof has not been fixed properly, which until that is, we can't fix the roof in the auditorium because the slate falls off and then damages the roof in the auditorium. And we're certainly not going to put a new roof on until that roof in the auditorium is done. We can't fix the water leaks going into the auditorium. But we actually, and it sounds crazy and stupid, but that's really where it's at. But the idea was we were hoping to have within the next year to actually have the auditorium completely refurbished with CPA funding, et cetera. Sound system through WCTV, which would have a sound and TV station built in there as well. And that was the idea of that. That was the reason we were not going to have to use the school anymore for that. As far as municipal maintenance on contracts and stuff, their issue really is more Chapter 90 funds, which unfortunately the governor in the last couple of years has been, I'm not going to use any fancy words, but we just haven't got the money when we're supposed to. So by the time the money is awarded in Chapter 90, if he stops holding back, it's usually too late in the year for the actual construction work to be put through, because you can't go out and borrow money. You can't go out and bid on a job if the money's not in place, basically, in the Chapter 90. So whether the budget was set in April or May would make no difference to them because the situation there. The other piece I looked at, which went back to your thought process, was the issue with the school committee when they actually submit their budget, which historically, unfortunately, has been in January or later, really is supposed to be in November. So unless we're willing to make those changes, the school committee's budget is actually set in February, and if they have a budget, they know who they're going to lay off. So they have more than sufficient time to give those notices. If it turns out that they don't lay them off, they can always do it back. But all I'm saying is that in the way this is laid out, it took that into effect as well, because we pushed it back so the school committee would submit their budget so the town administrator would get it in a timely fashion. So I've kind of laid it out as best I can, but we're trying to basically help the school committee, the town administrator, and the finance committee to get it all done. It's almost impossible to make everybody happy, and this was the best solution I could come up with at the time. But again, it's a piece of work. I'm not married to it. I'm just trying to get something fixed for everybody.
I don't usually disagree with Mr. Slavin. I do disagree with you on a couple of things on this. The issue of using the school building, the high school auditorium or the high school in any of the last really 3 weeks of May is useless. Don't go there. I come back to the argument that you and I have had, that is that major corporations actually have 5-year plans and they have their budgets on a moving target basis, and you don't submit your budget, don't bother to come to work tomorrow, kind of thing. So I think the designers of the charter and the people who reviewed the charter took into consideration the fact that you really should be able to work with all of the numbers that you have minus the income, the cherry sheet income, okay? Well, if we're relying on cherry sheet income to run this town, then we might as well leave now, okay? That is not an appropriate way of financing the ongoing, an ongoing proposition. So I would argue with you about that. Because something has been one way forever is not a really good reason to keep it that way forever. Change is probably good, so this discussion is excellent. On the other hand, the school knows about the enrollment on a daily basis. They certainly know. The only thing they really don't know about is how many school days they're going to have, how many snow days they're going to have. So I do not buy the argument that this enables everybody to do their job less efficiently, in my opinion, okay? And did you actually research how many towns might have done this? Because I looked at the town booklet, and most towns still do it exactly the same way we do.
I didn't actually count. Here's all the towns. my time was a little short this week.
Oh.
So I did not actually sit down and do a chart. But what was interesting, out of, say, about maybe 12.5 towns, some who went to May, 4 of them have come back. One town came back from the end of May back to March. Westboro. So it was interesting that out of 4 towns that tried going to May, that they came back to March, and they cite reasons, but, you know, I mean, I don't know how much time you want to spend on it, but just here, the very first one, town meeting calendar, these are April meetings, and they begin their discussions in October.
That's when we began ours, with our department heads and such.
Right.
So,
And that's the way it should be. Your numbers should be a year ahead of yourself, and instead of a year behind yourself. And again, I'm not criticizing your efforts, Mr.
No,
Slavin.
it has nothing to do with that. The whole deal is whether or not the people that are putting the stuff together to make it work are willing to make those changes. Because it's basically moved constantly later and later to the point that nothing's in place at the time frame that it's needed.
But if they did it when they were supposed to do it, it would be ready.
Well, then we,
That was actually one of the comments from one of my fellow moderators, that putting it off until May doesn't mean that they're going to get their work done any sooner. That just means that they will start it a little later.
well, if you remember, my
So-
comment from last week was that we're not going to do this just to accommodate a later date unless people are going to do the job. So it still goes back to, do we basically put something in place, whatever it is, and enforce it so it happens? Because again, if you go through the charter and the bylaws, capital planning has to submit a plan by November 15th, and the school committee is supposed to submit the budget to the town administrator to meet his date on section 5.3. I think it's December 15th, in sufficient time for him to do the budget, which means at least 2 or 3 weeks before December 15th.
But absent this year where we have a new,
No, we've had the same problem the last 3 or
No.
4 years too, though.
I understand that, but we have a new financial person in the school segment of the government. We have a CFO in the town segment of the government. We have restructured things. Mr. Foster,
Director of Finance.
Finance
Director of
Director.
Finance. Fine, Director of Finance. That those movements were made with an end toward having, you know, we'll call it a CEO and a CFO. Okay, now, no, we do not run the schools, but yes, we do fund the schools. And that is something that is an extremely important thing for people to remember. The tax bill comes and it says Town of Wareham.
Correct.
It is one town. It is one tax bill. It is $1 that we have to have fit the bill. And that's where getting the budget back on track and doing it in a fiscally responsible way is going to aid the town in regaining its fiscal health.
Go ahead.
So it sounds like, to me, I don't think this was Alan's idea. He just volunteered to do the work. And I don't think he has any hold into this.
No,
I
I have
sounds
no
to me
vested
like
interest.
the board is saying, you know, if you don't like the dates, stop being a whiny baby, suck it up, and just follow the dates that are in the charter.
Then if you'd like to do that, I'll go back and look at the charter and I'll clarify any of the gray area, because there are some gray areas about what's happening. And we've talked about this before with Mr. Bowen, and we'll just fix it, because I have no problem going ahead and doing that. Everybody has to understand they actually have to follow the process, because if they don't, we end up right where we are, as everybody throws numbers together. We get articles, you know, that get put out there with nothing in place, and it doesn't work
Perhaps
anymore.
this would be-
But so just let me finish that though, because the arguments, other than the one that was just made, and the dates that are in the chat, location means nothing.
No.
So I don't care how busy schools are the last 3 weeks of May. That has nothing to do with this discussion. The discussion is we're over these dates. We can hold a town meeting. We only need a place for 200 people. We barely have 150. And we can find that. By the time this goes through all the changes, we'll have a nice brand new conference center built. We could use that. That's going to hold more than 200 people. So to not do it because of a location is silly. But if you're going to tell people to abide by the dates, end the discussion. It's over. I mean, we've had this on the agenda all this time, and then the guy goes out and does the work, and everybody says, well, we don't want to change it anyway. Why do we have him go do all that work?
Because the discussion is healthy, and the idea of moving things back is something that people have talked about for a while. So you do need to go through the
Well, I just think that
the
if
exercise.
everybody was opposed to it in the first place, then why make them do
I wasn't opposed to it in the first place. I had to think about what I was going to.
Because I don't think Patrick was, last week, he was too in favor of moving things around either.
Well, I think the exercise has value, as Selectman Whiteside
Yeah.
says, just for its own purposes. But I would say this, we're going to vote tonight on a committee guidebook. We're going to eventually see an employee handbook. Perhaps this is the third book that somebody can write. This is how you get it done. These are the deadlines. This is what the charter says, who does what, when, where, and why. We probably have that scattered in 3 or 4 different sources. Perhaps it's time to bring it into one.
I've seen a guide that people are supposed to put their warrant articles on. It's been around for 4 years, and I've probably seen a half dozen being done on it.
It's in the committee
it's,
handbook.
You know, when you put things in place and then people don't use it, it just doesn't work.
Madam Moderator, it's right here in this lovely new handbook, the entire thing.
I mean, one of the other things, and you know, if we're talking about town meeting, that, you know, if you want to talk about different things in quorum, a lot of towns have a 0 quorum. And when people realize that it only takes one person to show up at town meeting to vote that budget, sometimes your quorum increases very quickly. And a lot of towns do have a 0 quorum. So, you know, if you want to hash that around in your mind overnight when you wake up at 3 in the morning thinking of things, a lot of towns have a 0 quorum. And people figure if one person can come in and vote that budget, then I best get down there and participate.
I have enough nightmares, thank you. Well, is there anything else on this, or do we,
Just make a recommendation that, you know, if he wants to go through the exercise to share with I think Mr. Sullivan can go read the charter and figure out the dates himself.
Oh, he knows what it is.
He knows where they are. I would just take this off any further consideration on the agenda.
Okay, if you'd like, I'll go ahead and take all the information I put together, and I'll come up with a little handbook that just shows everything, and it's black and white, and
I
mean,
think,
I mean,
I
the-
think Mrs. Whiteside just said it's in that book.
no,
No, her warrant article.
the warrant article
Mark.
is
I
a
mean,
little
if you
different.
really feel that it bears more discussion, like I said, you still have that town meeting committee that's still in effect. You put them together and have them do a little homework, but that's up
Do you
to
know who was on the committee?
It was the town moderator, the town clerk, member of the Board of Selectmen, and I believe 2 citizens at large.
Yeah. But the bottom line is, unless we want to actually change the date of town meeting, if we're going to leave it where it is, then it's really a moot point, because everything's already in place. The only group that really was concerned, besides the town administrator, back several times now, has been the finance committee. They feel that the 35 days they're allowed is a little bit of a problem. I can look at that and see if there's some wiggle room for them.
The other thing, too, with all due respect, I can go back to a time when the finance committee, just before town meeting, used to meet twice a week.
No, excuse me, we used to meet
3
5
times.
times a week,
Yeah.
and we would stay there until 11 o'clock
I
at night.
understand. I remember the capital planning committee that we used to meet 2 or 3 times.
If the
Before
work
town
needed to
meeting.
get done, they put a little extra effort in.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons we have the placeholder articles, to make sure that we have those available to get them done.
Yeah, but I think the placeholder articles drive some people crazy. I won't get into details.
certain people. But I will say this, at least as regards the employee contracts, we're under strong advice from the DOR to get current.
Yeah.
So that's one reason for some of them.
So would the board like me to go ahead and put
Yes,
together a little
please.
manual?
Sure.
Okay, I will do that next.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you, everybody. Discussion and possible vote on policies 8818, 91, 93-1, 92, 93-2, and I'll continue. All right, bear with me. First one I have in here is 91-1. Policy does not need a rewrite, but need to confirm registration fee of $52 per Chapter 101, Section 22 MGL. I can't find this fee anywhere in that MGL section. We need to check with the state fees listed with a deputy director for that.
So that would mean that we'll just put this off to another time.
In other words, there's nothing wrong with the policy. I just can't find where the $52 actually
Then
is marked.
after, yeah. So
So
let's put aside.
if I do find it, I'll make the change. No, it just has the 52 in there. I just couldn't find anything that actually confirmed that figure because it references back a state piece and I can't find it. 93-1, this policy should be combined with policy 89-9.
Move it. Move that policy 93-1 be combined with policy 89-9, concerns a drug-free workplace.
Okay. Second.
Motion made by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Slavin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 4-0-0.
Policy 93-2, remove and replace. It is the policy of the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Wareham that no town equipment, materials, or records are to leave the Town Hall unless approved by the Board of Selectmen, and a record of such event be filed with the Board of Selectmen's office listing items and person who's in charge with the responsibility for same. Whatever equipment, materials, or records now out of Town Hall must be returned immediately. This includes all committees, commissioners, boards, town officials, employees. This policy will take place immediately.
May I just recommend one change
Absolutely.
in the first word?
Yes.
It is more proper to write, it is the policy.
Oh, I keep forgetting we have a school teacher.
I
Thank
would
you.
ask that we wait until Mr. Sullivan gets back because what this might do is handicap the abilities of town employees to take records and work home with them. I certainly don't want them to have to pop up on the agenda or to have to ask us in order to be able to do that. Perhaps as an amendment that would authorize the town administrator to be a gatekeeper in that regard.
I was going to actually make a motion to change Board of Selectmen to Town Administrator.
Yeah.
Don't want to have anything to do with
Yeah, I think you and I are on the same page here.
it. Somebody needs something, you're going to have to wait a Tuesday if it's urgent. Just
Well, but
let
you,
the guy we're not in charge of that, he is. That's day-to-day operation.
Would you like to
but the
change
town
that then?
clerk is also the keeper of records, so
Well, the keeper of some records.
she's the official keeper of records.
Well, we're looking right now, Derek, at this 93-2. The thought is to possibly to take Board of Selectmen out as the gatekeeper of records, to whom anybody seeking to take records out of Town Hall would have to get permission, and replacing that with you. The concern, Selectman Holmes sees this as a day-to-day matter, and I agree. Also, I think we hamstring our employees who would want to take work home if they have to wait till Tuesday night to come in and beg our permission.
Yeah, because I can tell you, we've probably been in violation of that, myself included,
Yeah, because
daily, so.
the original policy does state it is the policy of the Board of Selectmen, so it's been that way from, so again, it's a policy that nobody follows.
Then could you bring it back next week with a revised edition?
If you just want, all we do is cross out Board of Selectmen in the two spots here and put down Town Administrator.
But you can't do that because the keeper of the records is the keeper of the records, and
So it would
you
have,
need to make sure that the keeper of the records is okay with this.
Okay, so in other words, you want
I would like,
this vetted through the clerk's office?
please.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then how does this affect public records? I mean, people have to file a document now.
But that's a copy as opposed to an original, which I think which is the implication here.
yes.
Well, to the extent that anybody's doing a Public Records Act request, I mean,
Right.
the Public Records Act certainly supersedes any policy we pass, so it doesn't prevent anybody from getting those materials.
But it's a copy.
Say the board of, take out the board of selectmen first of all, and give it to TA or town clerk, or he can work with the town clerk or something, but no way the board of selectmen should be involved in this.
No.
Could you bring it back next week?
Yep.
Sure, we'll just slide the 2 words in there.
Well, vet it through the clerk, please.
Yep.
I mean, it is our policy, we can, if we even need a policy, that's fine, otherwise we can just delete it out of the book.
Well, I understand the desire to protect the records, but at the same time, I don't think we should be the gatekeepers of that.
So if that's the case and we're moving it over, then we basically should delete the policy. If we're taking it out of the Board of Selectmen, remember, this is Board of Selectmen policies. So
I
if
move that we omit both of those policies.
we're- 93-2. That's it. Okay.
Oh, I thought it was 2.
Okay, we've got a
Yes.
motion made by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Holmes. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. 4-0-0. We'll come up with something better to safeguard the material.
Yeah, but then we'll have to write a new policy and let me know what you
Right,
want to do with
right.
that. 93-3B, at the end of the first paragraph, add colon and pursuant to regulations found in 204 CMR 9.02, 9.04, 9.6.
Is this followed?
Yeah,
So,
just updating the current regulations, that's all. That's what the CMR is for.
so you're telling me that all retailers in town do this?
They're supposed to.
That- Again, they are supposed to do it, and they're supposed to be also checked.
Well, who's following it? No, who is making sure that this policy is being followed? It's like an unfunded federal mandate. Stop doing these things. If nobody's following it, I don't know why we're talking about it. If
Again,
nobody's in charge of making sure that people
Well, this is just to make the regulation consistent with state regulations. That's it. It's not an enforcement mechanism. We're not going to hire additional people to go out and see that kegs are tagged. It's just to make sure that our policies are consistent with the state regs.
I believe it goes to the chief of police, is usually. It also could be the chief of police in conjunction with the ABCC doing their sting investigations. They do as well. I think we have to have the policy in place through the ABCC anyways.
Can we wait until we've checked the blue book on this one? The blue book being the licensing, the ABCC book.
Do you have a concern that these regulations are not found in the Code of Mass Regs?
I think that it may be duplication of effort. If it's in those regs, we don't need to have a policy. Sure.
I was hoping you'd ask.
All right, while we're doing that, 94-2A, remove the second paragraph. Reason for removing it, the place does not exist.
This looks like a bill of attainder. Yeah, the establishment that is referenced in this policy doesn't exist anymore, so
That's why
it makes sense to excise that language. Your motion?
Motion to accept the change.
Motion made by Selectman Slavin, seconded by Selectman Holmes. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 4-0-0.
Last one for the day, I believe. That's a long one. The policy 8818. Article 2, Section 5, change annual fee to $50. Section 8, eliminate without additional licensing fees. Section 9, change annual fee to $50. Article 4, Section 2, Item B, change to be the holder of a current required level Massachusetts driver's license. Section 4A6, change from any moving traffic violation to any first offense moving violation. Remove per violation at the end of that sentence. Add a new sentence. A second offense moving violation, the selectman may suspend the operator's license for a period not to exceed 30 days. A third offense moving violation, the selectman may suspend the operator's license indefinitely. Section 5, add after received by examiner, and such application is deemed complete by said examiner. Section 8, change fee to $40. Section 10, add at the end of first sentence, if approved by examiner, add approved between emergency operators.
Can I ask what a transporter vehicle is? Because I can see a whole lot of things that it isn't, and I don't know anything else that it could be.
I think there's the description in the,
Any vehicle other than taxi cab, school bus, or commercial motor coach used or to be used for the conveyance of persons for hire from place to place. Unless we're talking about a duck, it isn't, I don't know what it could be. Oh, I guess I do. A horse and carriage?
little red wagon. Yeah.
You can't.
The ride's free, that's not for hire.
That's right.
Can we go back and see if we actually have fees for transporter vehicles? Because I don't remember seeing that in my long review of all of the fees that the selectmen set. I don't remember anything called a transporter vehicle.
So
All
you
right.
want to research that and come back to it?
Sure.
How does that sound, Selectman Slavin?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what we're talking about.
I'm not sure if the fees go to us or they go downstairs to
you?
the clerk's office.
Maybe it's old, I mean, we can
Let's let's see what the
88,
genesis and
1988.
payment point of the fees is.
From 1988.
Yeah, why don't we come back to this one?
Mr.
You're all set on the other question?
Yeah, it's a kid question.
Finally in my area of expertise.
Me too. Kegs.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, back in the early 90s, the ABCC adopted regulations on kegs, and it was very common for a lot of towns to basically re-adopt the ABCC regulations as their own policy. That appears to be what was done here. It's not necessary. In fact, since 1993, the keg policy has actually added a couple sections which I don't believe are reflected in your policy. So it would be out of date anyway. But the ABCC ends its regulations at 204 CMR 9.09. So you gotta come back. Says no city or town or local licensing authority shall impose requirements with respect to keg fees or registration inconsistent with 204 CMR 9. So there's really probably not a lot of point to republishing the policy, and to the extent that as time moves on and the regulations change, you're actually kind of in violation of the ABCC policies.
So your recommendation would be to strike this?
You know, you don't
Yeah.
need it.
Don't need it.
Oh, even better.
Motion to strike that.
Second.
Okay.
Motion made by Selectman Holmes, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 400. Thank you, Attorney Bowen.
Thank you, Mr. Slavin, for doing the really arduous task of looking at this stuff.
Hold on just a second, let me get back to the tag policy. So 93-3B, we are removing. Rich, just one quick question. In this policy, they list, they go right to 204 CMR 9.0 and 9.02. And also 204 9.04. So is this current or this is not current?
With your permission, Mr. Chairman, let's see, 902 is the section that I'll read it. Each keg sold at retail shall be labeled with the name and address of the retail licensee and an identifying serial number. The commission may prescribe the form of labels to be used for this purpose. That's 02. And 04. The retail licensee shall require the purchaser to pay in addition to the purchase price, 1, a container fee of not less than $10 for each keg having a capacity of 6 or more gallons, of not less than $1 for each container having a capacity of less than 6 gallons. 2, a registration fee of $10 for each keg having a capacity of 6 or more gallons, and $4 for each keg having a capacity of less than 6 gallons.
That's what's in this one here, the original one.
Yeah, I think that there were some additional provisions added in to the ABCC regulations afterwards.
Okay. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you again for your work.
Board discussion on revenue and expenses based on reports by town administrator. We got that. Paperwork came into us. I got it over here. I believe we got this by email just yesterday?
Saturday.
I know I had a problem initially. At the bottom of the expense section of the spreadsheet, there was a little thing that said revenue. You could have for me anyways, it was hard to see. You have to click on that to generate the revenue report.
So in going through here, you'll notice we have the titles, the original budget, any budget revisions, what then the revised budget would be, the year-to-date expenditures, unobligated balance, percent expended year-to-date, and then you have the expected percent expended year-to-date, which would be 50%. So when you go down through them, and as you'll see, mostly a lot of the times, especially with us, our expenses will be higher at the beginning of the years. That's when our contracts are paid out, beginning of the fiscal years. Selectmen expenses are fine. The main ones that we're concerned about are what should be personnel services. And you want to make sure that they are under the 50% mark. And as we're going through here, most of the departments are trending very well. The one that is the concern that we need to bring up is if you go to page 5 of 14, you'll see the police. Their expenses are a little bit over the 50% mark. That's not a main issue right now, but the personnel services are at 52.6%. So that's trending higher than it should be. We know that we will have some monies back in grants. We also know that we will not start the summer seasonal program till the next fiscal year. We've been holding off on that. Today I spoke to the chief of police and directed him to pull the school resource officer and bring him back into the regular shifts to help offset overtime costs. This is in conjunction where we've received a letter of retirement from from a detective sergeant, which will shuffle some of the ranks. So we need to take steps to make sure that we get this under control. We're probably right now about $80,000 to $90,000 if you followed this trend throughout the rest of the year, where we'd be in, let's call it, in deficit or overspent on the budget. Last year, I believe at this time we were closer to 300,000. It would be better to be zero or plus, obviously.
Big improvement.
Yeah.
considering the overtime.
But my concern is we are trying to get three cadets through the academy, and that starts in March. And right now, I don't know how to get the additional funds to get them through, and I think they are going to be key to solving some of our overtime issues. So I'm working with the chief of police to make sure that we can get them in and also manage the budget in this fiscal year. So when we follow through all these, that's the main one that has the issue. If we go through, there was one where I believe that it was from some of the state assessments. It was higher than what seemed to have been stated in the cherry sheet. So we're going through and seeing where that RMV assessment came from. Is that incorrect, and how we're handling it. The library budget is over. However, they have, what's not included when you look at their budget is the monies that were given from the different organizations. So they're not reflected because we're charging directly in our budget, and then those monies will be coming in. Debt is higher, but again, that's because of the way the payments are. We'll be fine on that aspect. So right now, our expenditures are doing well. So I didn't know if you'd had a chance to look at it, if there was anything specific. If you go to page 12 of 14, you'll see at the top, the retirement line is at 99.3%. We pay that in a one-time lump sum, and it saves the town, I believe it was close $60,000 to $70,000 this year. So it makes sense to pay it in the.
Is that the same with workers' comp?
No, well, workers' comp is paid in one line, and we also have, there is a long time outstanding case where there is a worker that is paid out of the workers' comp line.
Thank you.
So, starting now and going forward, each department's going to have its own capital line as it's showing here, right?
Excuse me?
We'll start to put capital right into each department now instead of breaking them out separately.
Right, we've put the capital in the police for their cruisers, and we've done that with the EMS.
Good.
Probably the only other departments, when you'd look at it, would be maybe Harbor Master that would have a capital line. So I didn't know if there was anything in specific. When you go through the whole report, if you took every single dollar that we have from the general fund, our expected year to date, like it says, 50%, we've expended 45%.
Okay.
This just speaks to the issue of strong fiscal management. With reports like this available, it should be very easy for each department head to mind his or her expenditures, and therefore be able to prepare a budget in a timely fashion.
Yeah. Every department has access to the VADAR system to be able to pull the reports. The next item we go to, if you look at, and we can always, if there's any other questions after going through this again, we can always go through it. The revenue report, you'll see the first item is real estate. The first thing everybody needs to know is we annually collect approximately 97% of all our real estate taxes. So, but you're allowed to budget 100% because you receive tax title revenue. We're currently at the mid-year point, trending at 49%. Our personal property's a little higher. We are 3.66% higher than the previous fiscal year, which makes sense when you have the 2.5 increase every year plus the new growth percentage. Excise taxes, we're doing well. If you go through the hotel motel, you'll see an increase. What's represented from that increase is that there's not funds automatically going to community events anymore. It is flowing directly into the hotel motel tax. Meals tax is a little higher than the previous year. You'd always want to see that go up. Motor vehicle excise tax, we are trending higher, and it's interesting because I don't think our commitments go out till January or February time there. So it's interesting to see those higher. We have been going up from a low of just above $2 million. We're still well off base from approximately 5-6 years ago when we were collecting $2.5 million. But we might be seeing the trend where the useful life of the vehicles that people have owned, they're having to purchase new ones. And so it's always that calculation: is it cheaper to fix your car or to buy a new one? Penalties and interest, we're doing well. The fees. Rentals, again, the rentals really probably, it's also on what we've collected at that time. Rentals shouldn't go up or down drastically because they're by contract unless there's been some major change. We've brought somebody on board or we've changed something out. Licenses and permits are doing well, but I didn't have a chance to go through this with the town accountant. I think there's one item that was entered into license and permit that belongs in another line, but that's fine. Investment income, we're doing better on that, and it's higher than what we expected. The miscellaneous recurring, this also has the CMAS payment and then the district assessments, which I don't believe that we had received those yet in going through it, which is why there's the large change. The miscellaneous non-recurring revenue is the issue that we have with tax title revenue. While tax title revenue cannot be budgeted, the tax title interest and such can be. So you'll see we've actually added a line. We did break out Medicaid, but you'll see tax title and foreclosures, which you'll see makes up a substantial difference.
Can I just ask, can we go back to the tax title and foreclosure?
Yes.
Explain that again, please.
Tax title revenue you cannot budget because you're allowed to budget 100% of your real estate taxes, but you will never collect 100% in a given year for that fiscal year.
Right.
So you'll see now in the miscellaneous non-recurring, and then you'll see a tax title and foreclosures. What you can budget, though, is the interest that you've received on that.
But it's a you don't collect the interest until you foreclose the property.
That's correct, and we have collected those, and we collect every year. So we collect the interest as we start the tax title process as well. People will pay their back taxes plus the interest. And one of the things people need to realize is that interest grows at 14%. So
Thank you.
The cherry sheet, that is, as they say, what it is on there. I'm looking at and saying we probably didn't get one of our deposits yet on there because it's a little bit off from the prior fiscal year. So as of right now, we've collected 48% of our budgeted revenues, and we are higher where we were the previous fiscal year, where we're at approximately a little over 21 million, but we're closer to 26 million now. And again, even though you're choosing a midpoint, it's all subjective to when the revenues do flow in.
Right.
So, there's probably some we'd like to see a little bit higher. The The licenses and permits, we did get a boon from Walmart and the hotel. I believe those equaled up roughly a little over $70,000. So.
I believe the Walmart, the foundation permit alone was $77,000.
Was it I thought the two of them together.
I saw one for 77,
So it might have been 77 for Walmart and 29 for the hotel.
something like that.
The third document that we have, which is not the revenue expenditure, was what was requested. It is the DOR expenditure reduction goal worksheet. This is what I've worked out from some of the departments going through their lines and projections. I did speak with the school superintendent today. I understand she'll be presenting something to the school committee about cuts being made to help this goal. So, like anything, it should once she's presented that to the school committee, then we'll speak about it. However, as you go through the lines, you'll see where they've been taken out, whether it's from expenses. We do have some money left in municipal maintenance salary. There's been a position that was vacated earlier in the year that I did not fill. We've held off on that because it's a lot of times it's what we're trying to do to make the budgets and see where we can move some of the monies around. Unemployment, we are doing much better. It's at the beginning of the year we were trending at $22,000 a month. We're down to approximately $8,000 a month, which will leave a substantial amount of money within that line. So we should have at least we'll have more than the $110,000 left over, but as of now, we can project taking it out of that line.
So did I mishear what you said? You said that you met with the superintendent. Is the goal of that meeting to have the school portion of the town tax bill, the town funding, come up with the other 50% of what we're looking for?
We've asked, so whatever they come up with is what we're going to be.
Well, is that your understanding? Or is it for next fiscal year?
This is for what I'm going to say is she's going to present something to the school committee. And it would be if the school committee asked me to come forward and present something to them before I present it to this board, and I'm not going to do it. So
thank you.
It's up to them to do it tomorrow night. So
thank you.
Selectman Holmes?
Just to get this so that we have everything here in the fax box. When you brought this to our attention, I think it was back in December, early January, right? And this board took a vote to support that, to support this.
It was December.
And I remember being very specific about 100% of town budgeted dollars. And Mrs. Whiteside said, "Are you talking about the schools?" And I said, "No, I'm talking about everybody who takes a chunk of the dollar." So, we have the dollar bill, and what is the ratio that out of that dollar bill that the town gives to the school? 60-40? Is it 50-50? What?
There's some debate on it. You can go, I would use the range of
Well,
63 to 72.
There's a dollar bill that you get in revenue and that you budget. What is the percentage of that goes to the school department?
Of just the school department, not including the Upper Cape Cod Tech, just education, I'd say approximately 63%.
Okay. So you've managed, and I asked about this probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, and your answer was you have no control over that. Tonight we heard, though, that you do have some control over that. So I'm getting very confused by this whole situation. If you're at 251, and that's only representing 40%, then out of the 60%, I would expect to see a larger number than 251.
I don't think this is going to work off percentages. this is going to work.
I'm
out.
saying that you were asked, and we supported a $500,000 reduction. That was the letter. I can have the chairman put it on the agenda for next week. And we asked repeatedly, I did, that every dollar that the town spent, regardless of where it went and what department it went to, were going to be affected by this.
And they are.
And I don't see that.
And I've
No,
said-
they're not. I'm not seeing that yet.
You wouldn't see this in this document. I've explained that tomorrow night, the school superintendent's going to bring something before the school committee. Then
We did that in December. That was done, when did we do that? December? Right, because you had, 6 months to go.
And we have till June 30th to get this done.
Right. So there's a month that's gone by, right? Basically, a little over a month.
Yep.
So now, that school department now only has 5 months. If nothing's been reported to you.
But what he's saying is that,
I understand they're gonna have a meeting tomorrow.
right, they have executive session tomorrow as well.
The board supported this back in December.
Right, but
Right.
in order for them to, and I'm not defending the school, I'm defending the process. If we got a letter in December and we voted on it in December, it is only really the 1st of February. There've been a cancellation of this meeting. I think there may have been a cancellation of a school committee meeting, and therefore you lose a whole week of, being able to, okay, give me a dirty look.
I'm not giving you a dirty look. I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
I'm saying
There's
that
an administrator right there. We didn't give him that. He hasn't had that allowance. The school superintendent, he claims, was notified immediately after we did that letter.
he doesn't have
So-
control over the school.
Understood. And then tonight you said he did when he would.
He has control over the budget that he brings to the town meeting, and the town meeting is the ultimate vote.
And this is what I'm saying, 60% of those dollars go to one department, and they've not been affected by this yet. We don't have a report back yet. So far, it's 251-0,
I think what
with 5 months to go now.
I think what Mr. Sullivan is telling us is that you can expect fairly soon an amended sheet that has some other numbers on it. And what he's suggesting is that perhaps tomorrow night will be where that amendment
I'm making a
starts.
recommendation to you to try to help you, by the way. You understand that? Because you're going to have to answer to these 5 people in 5 months now. You were given a directive, and right now we're short by half with 5 months to go. And I tried to help you in the beginning by suggesting I don't know how people can say that, but I do believe that you should have administrative rights over that dollar bill that you're paying out. Now, I understand there are state monies and other things and slush funds that you don't have control over, but you should have control over this money because you're the one who's held accountable for this money to the town. So,
But the school could come back, the school committee could vote not to do this, and we would have to take it from the town side to make this up unless changes were made at town meeting by the town
he
voters.
doesn't have control over it.
I do not have control over the school's dollars.
Just want to keep pointing that out for you, my friend.
I think
Sullivan.
also there was a little bit of a communication issue as far as officially being notified of,
Because I believe there was a request to have an official notification.
correct, which put this off.
Another week, and they were on vacation, of course.
I'm not going to sit and justify anything. I'm just saying that let's see what happens on Wednesday. We know where we stand. And then we can have our own opinion at that point.
Well, there's 2 ways to look at this. One is we're a month into it. We don't have all the information we were hoping to have from all of the departments at this time. Perhaps another way to look at it is we're a month into this, and we've managed to lop off already half of the money
Exactly.
that was set as a 6-month goal. So
Exactly.
it depends on your perspective, I guess, on how you look at this.
Well, when you work the numbers on it, it's not very good that more than 50% is only coming out of 40% of the total dollars spent. So that's not good. And if he gets an answer back of 0, then he's going to have to take 100% of this out of 40% of his dollar. That's not even appropriate. In proper notice, you know, please give me a break. We're all adults, supposed to be working together. If anybody can come in here on their oath and testify that they had no knowledge of this without some kind of proper notice, give me a break, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'm not getting into that issue.
Right. Just give me a break.
Leave that one
Please.
aside.
Please. Don't even go there.
Well,
And this
I'm-
is why
I'm not-
people
I'm not
have,
the
and
one.
this is why people have issues when you have to go begging for advance or proper notice. I mean,
well,
come on.
I'm not making any assertions in that regard. Next item,
Thank you
please.
for your work, Mr. Sullivan, by the way. I think you're doing an extraordinary job there in a quite difficult situation.
Thank you.
Vote to adopt committee guidebook. Unless there's any more discussion, everything is in place, and I make a motion to accept the guidebook as corrected.
Second.
May I just make a comment?
No.
Technically, you shouldn't, because we're in the middle of motion, but we'll let you do
No,
it.
you've made,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's second for discussion.
Yeah,
yeah.
there we
It
go.
was
Second for
seconded.
discussion.
Okay,
you go.
thank you. This has been amended. I've already had a couple of people call and ask me where and when this will be available. My suggestion is that I work with Mr. Sullivan and his staff and the town clerk's office. It will go up on the website. There are links to everything you could possibly want to know or not to know. And it is a suggested committee book for all elected and appointed peoples.
Yeah, this is something that every person who joins a board, committee, or commission should have handed to them with the swearing in.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Should be available at the clerk's office.
I think the electronic copy, that looks pretty thick. I don't know if we're handing
Yeah, I
out
don't know.
copies left and right.
Getting all that paper off. Come on, tree hugger. Now you want to cut down trees for the book?
Is that copied on both sides or one side?
This is copied on both sides except for when you change policies. Yeah,
Okay.
it's as small as we could get it without
problem.
reducing the size of the type.
As long as it's available electronically.
Which nobody of a
Yeah, we
certain
can
age
do
would be
it.
able
It
to
is-
read, so.
yeah.
$3.
It is available on, well, it will be available online.
Is it PDF online?
It will be available online.
Just so you know, you can download on any of the town website, the zoning bylaws, charter, et cetera, are available. If you have an iPad or any kind of tablet, you can download the whole piece. It's there and carry it around with you at all times.
And the Tremont Nail Report and everything else. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a whole
Doesn't
lot
take
of
up much
stuff up
space in
there.
your tablet.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. 400.
Charge $3 for that book.
$3 worth of paper.
Thank you very much for your work on this.
Thank you very much,
It
Mrs.
was
Whiteside.
a lot of work.
Yes, it was.
You're welcome.
I thought we voted that in a couple of weeks ago, though. Now it keeps coming back. I think I have 3 copies of that now at my house.
Yeah, if you like to read it, it's fine with me.
Okay, let me wet my whistle and I'll read the, Okay, moving on, this is to establish the dates for the special town meeting and to read the notice of intent into the record.
Two separate pieces.
The first is a document called The Process for Calling a Special Town Meeting, April 28th, 2014, at 7:30 PM within annual town meeting. So we'll proceed as we always have, which is to start the regular town meeting, immediately segue into the special town meeting, get that business done, and then come back into the regular town meeting. Tuesday, February 4th, 2014, Board of Selectmen should establish all dates for completion of a warrant for the special town meeting. That's what we're doing tonight. Friday, February 21st, 2014, last day to post in at least one public place in each precinct. Notice of intention of Board of Selectmen to call a special town meeting for April 28th, 2014. Bylaw Division 1, Article 1, Section 3, 10 days before the warrant closes. Thursday, March 6, 2014, publication in local newspaper of notice of intent to call a special town meeting, Wareham Home Rule Charter, Section 2-4C, 45 days or more before the date of the town meeting. Friday, March 14th, 2014, last day to submit articles to be inserted in the warrant. Tuesday, March 18th, 2014, Board of Selectmen should officially close the warrant. Friday, March 21st, 2014, last day to post in each precinct and deliver a copy of warrant to the town moderator and to the chairman of each committee established by Section 2-5 of the Wareham Home Rule Charter, Wareham Home Rule Charter, Section 2-4D, within 3 days of closing of warrant. Thursday, April 3rd, 2014, last day to publish entire warrant in a local newspaper, Wareham Home Rule Charter, Section 2-4D, not less than 14 days before town meeting. Monday, April 28th, 2014, commencement of special annual town meeting. And we're going to have to include this, because it's been read into the record, we're going to have to include it in the minutes for this meeting. Now I will read the actual notice. Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen, 54 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571. Notice of April 28th, 2014 special town meeting. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Plymouth SS, to either of the constables of the town of Wareham in the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and in accordance with the provisions of Division 1, Article 1, Section 3 of the bylaws of the town of Wareham, amended. You are hereby directed to notify and warn the legal voters of the town of Wareham that a special town meeting has been called by the Board of Selectmen and held at 7:30 p.m. on Monday, April 28th, 2014, at which time the business of the town meeting shall be transacted. The last day for submission of articles to be inserted in the warrant is Friday, March 14th, 2014. Petition articles will be accepted up until 5 p.m. The warrant for this meeting will close on Tuesday, March 18th, 2014, and you are hereby directed to serve this notice by posting attested copies thereof in at least one public place held in each, at least one public place in each precinct within the town on or before Friday, March 21st, 2014. Hereof fail not and make due return of this posting with your doings thereon to the town clerk. Given under our hands at Wareham this 4th day of February in the year 2014, a true copy attest, Wareham Board of Selectmen, Peter W. Titlebaum, Chairman, Alan H. Slavin, Clerk, Stephen M. Holmes, Patrick G. Tropiano, Judith Whiteside.
We need a vote.
So we need a motion.
Motion so made.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Selectman Slavin, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 400. We can now sign the notice.
Next up, we have a vote to submit correspondence to Senator Pacheco, Representative Gifford, in support of the Wareham Fire and Water District request for special legislation to resolve the $210,000 owed to the town.
I will move that the chairman be authorized to submit correspondence to Senator Pacheco and Representative Gifford with copies to appropriate additional legislators in support of the Wareham Fire and Water District request for special legislation to resolve the $210,000 owed by the district to the town.
Second.
Just for quick discussion, can we also add to follow up with also Therese Murray?
Yes, I'll amend that.
Yes.
Well, that was she actually covered that with other legislative officials.
I said the other people, I just didn't name
I
them.
just
Yeah,
wanted
she's
to,
good.
Yeah.
Right.
I wanted to specify, so it
Yep.
was
Murray
on record.
And the House.
House Speaker DeLeo.
and DeLeo.
Okay, motion made by Selectman Whiteside,
Something
seconded by
to
Selectman
sign.
Holmes. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
Real letter, is it? Do we have to re-sign this? Oh, this was the town meeting.
Okay, next item, please.
Any town business not anticipated 48 hours. Mrs. Whiteside? Mr. Holmes?
No, sir.
I don't have anything.
Nothing.
Town administrators report?
Thank you very much. The first item, it's something that's was recently passed, I think is going to be very important to a waterfront community such as ourselves. The U.S. Senate passed a bill on January 30th that would delay the implementation of dramatic flood insurance premium increases for home and business owners in flood-prone areas.
That was Mrs. Waters.
Yay.
Mrs. Waters killed her own bill.
Yeah. So just so you know, the bill passed by the Senate would delay rate increases by up to 4 years. It'll allow homeowners to pass flood insurance policies on to new purchases of their homes at the same below market rate. Rollback rates on new homeowners who have recently seen sharp increases. Require FEMA to create a plan to make premiums affordable and reevaluate the accuracy of its newly drawn floodplain maps. We received a call from Keating's office on that, and one of the interesting things is the Atlantic Coast floodplain maps are based off of a 20-foot surge, which is actually for the Pacific coast and is not what the surge would be for the Atlantic coast. So some people were placed into flood zones that shouldn't be. So I'm hoping that there'll be some good news for a lot of people.
I guess we can anticipate a yet further amended floodplain map for the town of Wareham for next year's town meeting, and we can continue this lovely debate all over again.
Actually, I went to a meeting a few days ago on the maps that we have in place. They didn't talk about anything at all coming.
They said
I bet they didn't.
Yeah, we don't need to take any additional actions, no changes to
There's
the
no
map.
changes right now.
Right now being the operative descriptor.
Yes, it is. It's up to change it.
Well, that's good news, and we're certainly thankful for our congressional and senatorial delegation for doing something about this thing that they inflicted upon us.
Anything else, Mr. Sullivan?
Yes, I'd like to thank Municipal Maintenance Director Dave Menard and the foreman Joe Edwards. They received notice that that there's a program through National Grid that there's a 30% increase to the rebates for municipalities. So 70% of projects that will result in energy savings, that's labor and material cost, will be rebated to municipalities who start programs. So this is something that we're looking into and I'm probably going to put my foot in my mouth, put a placeholder article in for a town meeting to try and see what we can get done. We can do some projects that will save us energy dollars. We definitely and get 70% reimbursed. That is something that we need to look into. So.
I'm wondering if we could do some solar panels on some of the roofs, especially town hall roof, with not having to deal with the
Slate.
slate.
That could be one of the items. I'm going to move past that.
I figured to get a laugh out of that one.
We did meet about the parking today, and it's often difficult to find a time that works for everybody. So I'm going to work with some of our department heads to see if we can do similar to what we did to 6 and 28, and basically have an open house session where we'll have people available to ask questions, put down information, and have people come in and out. We'll notify everybody. We're looking to get that done within the next few weeks because, as Mr. Holmes said, it's right around the corner, summer. We may not think it looking outside and what's coming our way, but it really is to implement any changes. So
We are moving, can't say that, full speed to the wall.
Do we have any kiosks on order?
no, they're not on order. We're putting the bid out, and we're requesting 3 of them with the monies that we've put before. We're going to do, again, bids for 2 kiosks and then 3 kiosks, depending on the monies. We have a little bit under $25,000 available.
What's the lead time?
We're paying
For
as
the-
we go. We're buying these as we go, so we're not.
Right, so they're not massive orders.
Yeah.
It's going to depend on who we get. We're going to have to bid it out. We currently use Calais, and I don't know whether it would be another vendor, because with the procurement laws, we'll have to see who bids and gives us the best price on it.
So we have a good chance of making Memorial Day.
Yes, actually what we want to have them up and running is May 1st to have them available so people get used to those areas as well. Obviously last year midsummer was not a good implementation, but what we found is the people that were visitors from out of town and such, they knew them. They've been to other towns. They vacation in other places. They knew them. They've seen them, and it's a pretty simple
They're everywhere you
interaction.
go.
Yeah.
I keep sending you pictures
Yes.
every time I
I got a rogues,
Yeah.
I have a rogues gallery for Mr. Holmes.
So, clearly, we're going to want ones that are good for the marine environment. We will continue not to have the dollar bills or the bill collector on there. It's been a nightmare for people. We didn't order them on the last one. It's worked great. So, and that is my report. So thank you.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Whiteside, any reports from committees?
Well, sort of yes and no. I thought that there was supposed to be a meeting about the consolidation of boards and commissions under the natural resources thing that we talked about. I'm not aware that there's been any meeting. I don't remember who was supposed to be in charge of that.
I think we were,
We get a workshop for that, actually.
yeah, I
Yeah,
believe
but we were supposed,
we were supposed to put it together for
yeah, but who's the we?
the board
Yeah, we have to we'll notice a workshop meeting
Soon?
soon.
this month.
Okay. And then this is not really a liaison report, but I guess it's a liaison report. I'm in the middle of creating a vocabulary list, a way of understanding town finance, kind of like I just did this little committee book. It won't be so long. And it will show the different ways that this town, the different municipalities of the town, the different ways that the town gets money. It will explain in common American terms a lot of the terms that we use in here on a nightly basis and the ones that are used in town meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Holmes?
No.
I met with the Historic District Commission. I believe they're going to request to come before us on several issues they have. I found a particular item on Center Park, which I've given to Attorney Bowen to look at, as to how basically Bessie Park, but also Center Park in particular, how it's used and what's the process to actually request to use it, et cetera. It came up through the Celebration 2014 group. And this, again, when you look for paperwork, you find things you don't want to find sometimes. So they have some issues there. The planning board will be meeting next week. They haven't met in about a week, 2 weeks or 3 weeks now. The TDR, we're going to try and meet tomorrow, weather permitting. If not, it'll be Friday. It should be the last meeting before we set a public workshop date for that, which hopefully be in about 2 weeks. I met with I think it's my third meeting with the districts. We had discussions. The Wareham Fire and Water District agreed to continue the process, to sit down and talk about things. The Onset Fire and Water District is going to meet tomorrow, and they're both groups will meet, and they will make a decision whether they want to participate or not. Hopefully that they will vote to participate with us, and that's where that stands as of today. And that's about all I have for today.
I have a couple of things. On Thursday, I went to the Cemetery Commissioners meeting, a nice peaceful meeting. One of the things that they are going to be looking to do is to come up with a warrant article to expend money from their lots and graves fund that is just sitting there and accumulating, hasn't been spent. I think they finally understood that due to our budget constraints, staffing constraints and so forth, that it's difficult for municipal maintenance to devote the time to really properly care for the cemeteries. So I won't get into too much of the details, but they're looking to appropriate a significant portion of the money that's currently in the lots and graves, which is over $300,000, by the way, and again, it's just sitting there. They're looking to expend about $137,000 of that first to redo a roof at Center Cemetery on the garage building that's there. They're looking to get some of the students in the landscaping program out of the Upper Cape Voc-Tech to come in and do some work, minimum wage work in terms of clearing and so on and so forth. This is work that municipal maintenance typically would do with a bigger municipal maintenance department, but they don't have the bodies to get it done. So they will be coming before us with their proposal for the warrant article. So we'll hear from them then. The other liaison report I have is I sat in on the Community Preservation Committee's meeting today when they went over the application requests that they had received from a few different bodies. Too voluminous to get into here. I know everybody wants to get home. I believe that I should have an email that identifies who the applicants were, what they were looking to do, and what the amount requested was, and what was voted. And I'll get that out to the board. And further in that regard, what I'd like to do next week is keep the agenda primarily to having the sponsors, petitioners, what have you, of the various warrant articles come in before us. We have the up or down votes as to whether they go on the warrant. That is different from the favorable action vote. But I like to do that before we actually close the warrant. That way, if there's anything that the board thinks is just completely out of line, doesn't belong, then we can dispense with it then, not have to worry about dispensing with it at town meeting. I know the moderator will appreciate that. And one final note from the Community Preservation Committee, and this will hopefully calm down some people when it comes to the Tremont nail. The Community Preservation Committee voted to, I believe, further study the request for a significant sum of money to repair the sprinkler system in the Tremont nail. They're pushing that back to the fall at the earliest. They realize that it's a difficult question. They know that a lot of people have been up in arms about it, so they're looking certainly to examine the question a lot more thoroughly and not rush to get that done at Springtown meeting. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, during the meeting, was the state asking for any money out of that CPA funding?
If you consider the Wareham Housing Authority the state, then the answer is yes.
They are the state. If not whether I consider them the state. That's state property, correct?
They did ask for some money, and you will see what.
And I would request Mr. Bowen to be prepared next week to discuss towns funding state projects.
Yep.
So that when I come in with a machine gun, you'll be able to answer the question.
Actually, Attorney Bowen has been requested on that very same score by the Community Preservation Committee, so they also have questions in this regard, just so you understand that.
Because I feel just as strongly about that as Patrick does about Tremont Hill. It's another unfunded state mandate that they're requesting.
Yeah, well. We'll have plenty of time to hash it around next week.
Better save plenty of time for that one.
That's why I don't want to hear a lot of agenda requests for next week.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Selectman Slavin, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. Good night.